I'm saying is that the Assassin's Creed from 2016 is the absolute best video game movie of all time. And that's why I bought this steelbook. I mean, it's got 2 discs. One's missing right now because I love it so much. It's in my player right now. And as far as video games...
As cool as that is, Rendan, I hate to interrupt, but welcome to Hate to Interrupt. I am Ethan from youtube.com/Ghouliff, and I'm joined by...
Nick from Stop Culture.
Nick, who's also VHS guy.
And Rendan again.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome back, Rendan. You're our first ever recurring guest.
I'm hyped to be here. I really am. The first time was great. The second time, I'm not nearly as nervous, so this should go a lot better. But before we get started, I want to ask you guys a question, and you can not answer if you don't want to. But I'm interested to hear what all of you guys are working on right now for YouTube. Because, I mean, Stop Culture Nick's video on Michael Clayton was fantastic, and I'm very interested to hear what you guys are working on right now, if you want to share.
Oh, thank you, Rendan. I appreciate it.
It was great.
So I'm working on like a quick turnaround because I was very happy with that video, but it sort of flopped, which I was kind of expecting coming because it's like I was thinking like if I connected Michael Clayton to Andor, I could get the Star Wars fans to be like, oh, he made something else good in the past, but didn't really work out that way. Win some, lose some. But
Star Wars fans don't have any interest in watching anything other than Star Wars.
I guess so. I guess that's that was my miscalculation ultimately. But right now I'm doing one on The Last of Us. I'm doing sort of about like the whole premise of the video is like trying to say that you can hate the show because it kind of does suck without cyberbullying a 21-year-old lead performer who's never led a series or film before, which has just been so vitriolic how people have been treating Bella Ramsey. So I just wanted to comment on that a little bit.
Oh, that's sweet. It kind of reminds me of the hatred that what's her name got from The Last Jedi, the Asian actress.
Kelly Marie Tran.
Oh yeah.
That's it. Yeah, kind of similar to.
She was just doing her job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, that was a weird one because people just hated that character and then just took it out on her.
Yeah, it's kind of the same situation. I'm working on, I've had a script written for a little bit now. It's basically about like the bastardization of the word edgy and like why edgy has become like basically a no-no word in modern culture when used to be it basically meant something was like groundbreaking or pushing for something new, right? But so I'm talking about that. I've been kind of delayed because I've been like working on my comic and I kind of wanted to plug that in there at the end of my video, but it's slow going on the comic, but I'm almost there.
Because it's an edgy comic, right?
It is a very edgy comic, I won't lie.
Tell Rendan what the title is.
The comic is called Sex Robot, and it's about a robot gigolo who gets infected with a program that forces him to like basically kill the global elites of the world. But he's not built for murder, he's built for love. So his body is like murdering people with dildos and shit.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, that is pretty edgy, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be there though.
I've read the script, and Nick's been sending us like updates of the art. He's got a really good like artist and colorist working on it. It's going to be really good.
Dope.
What about you, Ethan?
I am the slowest YouTuber in our trio. It has been, I think the last upload. Well, no, that's not true. I uploaded for April 1st, but that was a very quick video. I've been spending this whole year. Oh, thank you. I've been spending this whole year just kind of focusing on like filmmaking and screenwriting and kind of like really falling into that because I'm like, now or never. I don't want to wait too long before I focus on that and actually try my hand at it rather than talking about doing it. But I am still working on YouTube stuff. I think the last time you were on here, I made a joke about how, because you were like, I don't like making videos about things that suck or saying something sucks. And then I was like, well, I'm working on a video about how this movie sucks.
Yeah, Monster Hunter, right?
I'm still working on that. I got like 1 day of editing done in the last month and a half. So it's still coming along. So as soon as I finish my short film and this competition wraps up, that'll be out in the next like week after that, hopefully. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hyped for all that.
I'm going to be doing the score on Ethan's short film again.
Yeah.
No way. Let's go.
Yeah. That was Ethan's first short film was the first time I scored something, and I'm doing it again, which this time I think we're going for something more of like a 70s rock vibe, I think is what I don't know if things are different now, but because the concept's kind of changed, but I'm excited to get to work.
Yeah, we'll be doing a bit of that.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about 2 movies and maybe getting into some TV a little bit. But first, let's get into Nick's recommendation. The 2020 film Butt Boy? Is that when it came out?
I think so. It was 2019, I think.
Well,
I don't remember.
So why did you recommend Butt Boy? I got to be honest, Nick. I was nervous to watch this, but I was pleasantly surprised with how I ended up feeling about the movie.
Honestly, I just seen it brought up in a few random like Reddit posts over the years, and it's just kind of something that's been sitting on my watch list for a while. And I have like a whole list of movies that I kind of want to recommend to us, and I really felt like watching something that I hadn't seen along with y'all. So that's kind of why I picked it. A lot of my recommendations are things I've already seen.
Yeah. So yeah, let's do like a little plot synopsis.
So what the fuck is this?
Of Butt Boy, because we have to give people some context about why the movie's called Butt Boy, who the Butt Boy is, why the butt is important.
Yes. Why are they? Yeah.
The film's about a man who's in a failing marriage, and how some people will become sexually precarious. He kind of does the same by shoving random things and eventually children up his ass and kidnapping them. And a detective begins getting a bit suspicious of where these things are going and where they might be going. And it's basically just him trying to, hide from the law and hide things up his ass at the same time.
I just have to say, the way that he gets a fixation on putting things in his ass is so funny. It's so funny that he goes for like a prostate exam, and as soon as the doctor goes in there, he's like, and then immediately he's like, all right, can you put your finger up my ass? To his wife. She doesn't want to do it, so he's like, bar soap, dog, anything I can find.
Yeah.
and then his ass becomes a pocket dimension. It's crazy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, one of the best scenes I've seen in a long time is him chasing the car with his ass cheeks spread open, and it's just vacuum sucking just while he's fucking waddling back at him. I was literally on the fucking floor dying.
Yeah, that was funny.
So, Rendan, you were saying that you did not enjoy this movie, right?
I didn't. No.
He doesn't see the vision.
I was surprised by it because I literally had not heard of it before. I wouldn't normally watch it either, but I was like, okay, that first opening sequence was great. Like the finger in the ass, him putting things in his ass, and then like hanging himself essentially. I was like, okay, I'm all on board. It was like a really great short film. And almost the literal second that the detective came in to the movie, I was like, oh. And it kind of immediately went downhill for me. I thought it was fine. It's one of those things, like we talked about it a little with Krisha, where I struggle a little bit with low budget movies to like find out how I should view them, how I should like criticize them when it's very clearly low budget. But in this case, it was actively distracting me. Like the way some things were shot, like the sound design of some things. I had such a hard time getting on board with it, which is weird because it's like the perfect comedy premise for what I always ask for. I'm always like, if you're going to do a comedy, the best way to do a comedy is to have the weirdest possible premise that you play straight. That's hilarious to me. But for whatever reason, I just, maybe it was the juvenile. I don't know. It was so weird.
Right. I think you're kind of right. Where like everybody kind of played it straight except for the detective. He kind of like was way over the top with everything, and it kind of made it kind of have this weird conflicting tone.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to say in much less words. Yeah, the detective for me, they even commented on it a little bit where they're like, you're the typical cliche detective with the greasy hair. And I was like, I see what you're doing, but I still don't think it works. And every scene with him, I was like, I can't take this guy seriously. As much as he's trying to take the role seriously, he had this constant facial expression, like, and I was like, this is not funny to me. Like, I don't know. Everyone else was so straight, and he was playing it so over the top. It didn't work for me.
It did feel very like old, like YouTube sketch comedy, like vibes.
Yeah, he was kind of coming at it just like, yes, I gotta find the guy who puts shit up his ass.
Yes. Which is funny. It's like a funny premise, and I don't know why it didn't work for me, but I think it was just that. Like, oh man. And then when you get to the pocket dimension at the end, that's when it picks up again for me. But that like middle chunk, I really struggled with. I was trying not to fall asleep.
Yeah, I like the fact that they commit fully and they're just like, you know what, we're making a whole like set and dimension for this guy's ass, where it kind of reminded me of like the Upside Down.
Yes,
it was the Upside Down,
basically. but it's just covered in shit. Everything.
Or it also reminded me of like the innards of the jean jacket from Nope.
Yes,
like kind of like that,
a little bit like that.
Way less
Equally
scary. I mean, that's
terrifying.
one of the most scary scenes I think I've ever seen, when they're all like getting crushed and then they're all silent. Like, this was obviously a joke, but I kept thinking about that during this movie. So wait, was it the detective's performance or just his role in the story narratively that you guys don't?
I think it was a bit of both. I think the detective's performance I didn't really buy at all. Because like I said, I think he plays it way too broad and over the top. And I think the role kind of demands that, but I don't know. I didn't find him that believable. And then the role he's playing too, where I get like there's parallels between him and Butt Boy, because they're both they have this addiction. But I didn't get enough from the detective to actually care at all about him. And he's like clearly the main character at a certain point. And I there's like little hints at interesting things with him, where he has that wife or ex-girlfriend, he's going to their house and she's with a new man, and it's like, okay, maybe that's what's triggering the alcoholism, with the detective seeing horrible shit all the time. But I just didn't get enough of it to actually care about him. I wanted more of his like private life, and I feel like it turns very quickly into him being like, oh, this guy's putting stuff up his ass and I'm gonna get him.
Yeah, I think this movie works best whenever it's being a dark comedy, like very black humor. And I think whenever it gets too silly, I think it does kind of like, it gave me a little bit of tonal whiplash as well. But I think I probably enjoyed it more than you did, but I think it could have been something that I like really remembered had it played things a little bit more straight.
I mean, I have to have sympathy for the people who made this movie, because it's like, yeah, I really appreciate how seriously they took the first half hour or so, but it's like, I don't know. You're making a movie about a guy who creates a pocket dimension inside of his ass and is like trapping gigantic inanimate objects and dogs and people in there. Like, at a certain point, it does kind of have to turn into a joke. Like, no matter how much you want to play it straight, like eventually the concept is gonna kind of like fold in on itself, and become just a straight up comedy. So it's like, I don't know.
There were still moments of like that comedy and ridiculousness, like the boss giving that big speech at the beginning. I thought that worked super well. Like, and then like I said, the moment where he's chasing the car with his asshole spread open, like I think that worked really well for me. I think they should have like picked their moments of whenever it was going to be stupid and fun better.
Yeah, or like that part where he's are you talking about the speech where he's like, guys, the plaque is missing, and what does our company stand for? What does the plaque say? Or sorry, what did the plaque say?
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah. I think it was mostly a tone thing for me. Definitely. I just, as I was watching it, it started working less and less, because I think there was less and less moments like that. Because like I said, the detective sort of becomes the main character, and he's going off following this trail, and no one's really believing him, which is the classic cliche cop thing. He goes to his boss, he doesn't believe him. He's on the trail, he finds the little dingleberries with the hair in it, and I all those moments I was like, this should be funnier, and I couldn't wrap my hand around why I wasn't loving it, because like some of my favorite comedies are like the Zucker Brothers, Airplane, Naked Gun, Top Secret, and those are so insanely ridiculous, but they play them so straight. And I think that is slightly off with this one, because it plays this stupid premise very straight, which I appreciate, but I kind of wanted it also in that middle chunk especially to go further, which is why the ending I was completely back, because like, okay, now it's stupid and ridiculous as it should have been the whole time. But it's like, he's secretly putting things up his ass. Do we know? Do we not know? The detective's on his case. He's got alcoholism. And I was like, I want to get to the ridiculous stuff.
I will also say this movie was an hour and 40 minutes, but it felt like 2.5 hours. It was so fucking. It could have had 20 minutes cut off of it easily.
Yeah, that's true. I respect this movie in a lot of ways, perhaps more than I genuinely love it, but I think it was it's a very unique movie. I think it's sort of a brave movie in its own way. I definitely appreciated it. and I like
This
it
is a
way more than something like Psycho Goreman. I will say that for sure.
This is a movie I would probably recommend to somebody. Like if somebody told me they like really liked like silly like dark comedy, like I would probably say you should check out Butt Boy. Like I don't know. I don't think I loved it as much as I thought I would based on like things I've read about it, but I did respect it as well.
There's one trope that I thought I was gonna hate it from like the first scene, because anytime there's like a, you know, an office drama obviously this isn't like an office drama, but there's that moment where at work they're all doing a team building exercise and the main character is the only one who's like, oh, I hate this, and everyone else is getting excited about it. Like, that's just so unrealistic. Everybody hates those things, you know. So I don't know why you have to be like, oh, our protagonist is the only one who sees through the facade of like this horrible corporate culture, you know. But I pretty soon I was, you know, disabused of that notion. But I had to mention that because that was very annoying to me to start the movie off with.
Yeah, I think it plays with cliches in a way that at the start is interesting, and I liked it because at first I had that same thing where I was like, oh, this again, and then it's the suburban nightmare again. He's not satisfied with his life again. I was like, all of this is so tropey and cliche, and I love that first 20 minutes because it takes such a hard and fast shift into, oh, this is that, but turned on its head. And then it loses me right after that. But I really did like how it played with the cliches at the start like that as well.
I will say also, like, oh, go ahead.
No, I know that's kind of some of your guys' problem is that it does play itself so seriously, like it's just a straight up procedural. I think that's kind of why I liked it so much. I was like, every time it's like the most serious, intense scene. It's just like, get the fuck out of my precinct. I want your badge on my desk. And he's like, boss, their kids are in his ass. But it's like fully serious. I don't know. I
did like that part. I think I like that it was played serious too. Like it did feel very campy though. And not so,
not in a good way for you.
I feel like they should have had, I don't know how to describe how I'm feeling about it. But a lot of it was probably the detective's performance where like, I wish he was more like I don't know.
I feel like Nick's ideal movie ever would be this concept written and directed by the Coen brothers with like Javier Bardem as the butt boy or something, just like played so straight.
That actually sounds amazing.
Yeah. Because I feel like I feel like that's what you're kind of saying. Like you wanted it to be taken super seriously because that's what would made it the funniest, right?
But I still think the humorous moments worked. Like I've mentioned, like a lot of those scenes that were just kind of slapstick worked in a vacuum of everything else being taken seriously.
Yeah. That's the strangest part of all is like all of these scenes, once I talk about them and think about them in concept or in premise, they are hilarious. I think that it is a really, really funny idea to have a cliche detective go and have a cliche moment about a guy shoving kids up his ass. That's hilarious on paper. But for some reason, just in that execution, there's like one screw missing for me where even in that scene, I was like, oh, all right, we're doing this. And it didn't click for me. I have such a hard time explaining it because on paper it's so funny, and just talking about it and hearing you guys explain it makes me laugh, but then when I was watching it I was miserable.
If you think
it could just be like a product of inexperience or the low budget, as you were saying before. I would be really curious to see. I mean, you know, Nick talks about this all the time, but like people don't really get the opportunity to make comedy movies at a large scale anymore. Like if this was 2008, it would be really cool to see what this guy would be able to do with even just like a $10-15 million budget, you know, like with real actors. Not these guys aren't real actors, but with like
he wrote, directed, and he was the main actor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I am curious to see what would happen if this was like a script that they had to keep the same, but it was done by a high profile, like Martin Scorsese had to make this with like Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci and all them, and Leonardo DiCaprio is the butt boy. I just think I really want to see someone do that, like take this absurd, completely unserious idea, but give it to someone like plays it super straight and is like an actual prestige artist.
Yeah, that'd be great.
what's that Martin McDonagh movie after In Bruges?
Seven Psychopaths?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's more like the type of vibe I would have hoped this movie had. Where, like, I don't know, just it's a very serious movie, but then that it just has those ridiculous moments with like Christopher Walken just saying those absolutely absurd things to the people trying to kill him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have to say, I think the writer direct. I don't know. I know Nick listened to Come Town when it was a thing. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but
no,
this really does feel like an entire episode or half episode of Come Town where they just have a extended bit where it's about, imagine if there was a guy who was unhappy with his life and started sucking things up his ass and built a universe inside of it. They actually have an episode. Nick, have you ever heard the Eric Clapton one?
Yes.
That's what this. I was thinking. I was like, this is like the Come Town Eric Clapton story, where he had a song about building a robot that lived inside of his ass that like controlled him with knobs and levers or something.
It literally felt like a conversation you'd like have while you're like out drinking with your friends. Like, it'd be so funny if this movie was a thing, and then like, then you just actually made it for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it props for that for sure. Like, I mean, I respect it more than I like it. That's for sure. Like on paper, I really like it. I love that they made it, and it seems like they made it for not a lot of money, and they did a pretty good job with however much money they had. It's just the execution didn't work for me, but I respect it a lot.
So, what are you guys thinking for ratings on this one?
I'll be like a 6 on it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm floating at. Like a 6 out of 10. I liked it. It was fun. Nothing amazing, but I'm happy with it.
I'll go 6.5. I want to give it that extra half for the effort.
Brendan, give it that 10 out of 10 you so desperately want.
Yeah, I'll give it a 10. No, I'm probably hovering around a 4, honestly.
Okay. That's not terrible.
Yeah. So I sounded way more negative on it than I am. There's some things that I do like about it, but
yeah. So I mean, the reason we brought Rendan back on, I mean, we love Rendan. We would love to have him on all the time.
We love Rendan on Hate to Interrupt.
But the primary reason was because the first time we had him on, we talked about Trey Edward Schultz's directorial debut, Krisha, from 2015. And now his name's been in the media a lot this past week because he just did a collaboration with Abel Tesfaye, The Weeknd.
What's his name?
Abel Tesfaye is The Weeknd's name.
I thought his name was The Weeknd.
That's his stage name. Did you really think his name was The Weeknd?
I just didn't know what his real name was.
But
I wish my parents called me The Man.
I was looking at the Rotten Tomatoes and they were like, I can't wait for Monday. Like a lot of people were saying that because
that's hilarious.
People were making plays off The Weeknd. But yeah, funny. So yeah, we just figured we'd talk about this movie because everybody's shitting on it. Wanted to, see what Rendan thought because we all love Krisha. And yes. I think we all kind of hated this one.
I love It Comes at Night. I love everything this man's made.
Waves, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I have not seen this. I was not able to catch it in time, and I'm gonna be happy with that decision, assuming how this conversation goes. I did watch Krisha. That was the first and only Trey Edward Schultz movie I've seen.
Freaking great.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this discussion is gonna be opposite of the last one.
Yeah.
Somebody who's not me, give a rundown of what this movie's about.
Really quick, before we get into this, everyone's comparing this to The Idol. Did you guys watch The Idol?
I did.
Yeah, I did.
It had one of the screenwriters of The Idol was connected to it. It was written by, I think Trey Edward Schultz was involved with the writing of it. It was Schultz, The Weeknd, and one of the co-writers from
Idol guy.
Reza Fahim.
Yeah, Reza. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, just a short rundown of it. It's a very impressionistic sort of story. It starts off with The Weeknd at a concert. It feels kind of like an extended music video for a lot of it. It's not very heavy on narrative. He's they show him having problems with a girlfriend or an ex-girlfriend. He's having issues with his voice that seem to be like, it's implied that they're psychosomatic. He doesn't actually have a problem with his voice. He's just having like depression that's causing him to cough and have different vocal issues or whatever. Then he meets Jenny Ortega, who's basically like the Gen Z version of the villain from Misery in that Stephen King movie, who just, ties him up and I don't know, just basically wants him to talk about his lyrics, which is just a weird concept. It's like, I'm going to tie you up, explain your lyrics to me, because I feel like you're more depressed than you're letting on. And I was like, what the fuck even is this? Like, why was this done? It's just like a weird art. Like I think Nick said, and a lot of people have been saying, it's just a fucking vanity project for The Weeknd to seem deep and artsy. That's really all this felt like.
Yeah.
I hated every moment of it.
Wow. Okay, this is gonna be real interesting because I don't hate it. I did a video on it, and I don't know what it was, but for a good chunk of this movie, I actually really enjoyed it. I obviously The Weeknd is not a great actor. And that scene when Jenna Ortega is forcing him to listen to his music sucks so much ass. It's incomprehensibly bad. That scene is so bad, and I think it actively ruins a lot of what I liked about it. The start isn't great because, like you said, it's kind of a Weeknd music video. In my theater, it literally did start with a music video, and we all thought it was part of the movie. And then it actually started the movie, and I was like, okay, well, now I'm in the mood for another music video when he's just walking around on stage. But I think this actually manages to be somewhat interesting with so little. Like there is, if you take away the fact that The Weeknd is in this and it's kind of about his own like subconscious or psychology, there's basically nothing to this movie. But the way and maybe I'm just glazing Trey Edward Schultz here, but the way that it's executed, I actually found somewhat interesting. I found Jenna Ortega's character interesting. The fact she's a super fan going to meet The Weeknd, and then she gets everything she wants, and The Weeknd is having this horrible relationship, and he's being enabled by the people around him. I actually found that kind of dynamic interesting, where the super fan is the one that's trying to force him to wake up to his own destructive behavior, and then the people that are close to him, the Barry Keoghan, is like actively feeding into it, like, yeah, this girl's a bitch, who cares, you're amazing, we love you, go out on stage so I can make money. It's like this angel and devil on the shoulder kind of role that I really liked. And I loved the scene when he's like wandering through his own subconscious, when the elevator goes down in that deep black hole, and there's that woman that's like scares the shit out of him and starts screaming and running after him. And then he sees his young self at the campfire. I loved all that stuff. The problem is that The Weeknd is in it, and he's so bad, and it feels like a vanity project. If he wasn't in it, I legitimately think this wouldn't be as polarizing as it is. Because the fact that she's playing Blinding Lights for him and then being like, this is a pop anthem and it's so amazing. I was like, gross. Don't do that.
They play Blinding Lights in the movie?
Yes, and Gasoline and another song. They're just playing his songs, and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Ugh, I'm heated about
she's
it.
just she's going through all the lyrics of Blinding Lights. It's like, yeah, this is like a fun pop song, but like, where is all this pain coming from? And The Weeknd's like sitting there crying, tied up to a bed. I'm just like, it's just very. It felt, very like self-congratulatory in a way, or I don't know what the entire thesis of this movie is. I don't know what he's really trying to get across to us, besides the fact that he's so damaged and upset from all the women in his life that have hurt him. I'm just like, dude, what the fuck?
That's kind of my feeling too. Like, this movie I can see what you're saying, how a lot of those concepts can be interesting, but like, I finished the movie and I was like, why did they make this? Like, I don't understand. There was no, like, even like if we're comparing it to something like Misery, like the way this movie is portraying this story, regardless of The Weeknd's bad acting, like having all these like long ass music videos and like all this wasted time, her setting her house on fire didn't even matter. Didn't make any fucking sense. Like, there's a lot of this movie that felt very inconsequential and not connected. So I just don't get this movie. I don't know what they wanted to do either.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think it's that great. I'll come clean. I think it's okay. I think a lot of it works kind of similar to Butt Boy, where either the concept works for you or it doesn't. And this is one where it's going to be really difficult to swallow. I mean, it clearly is. Like in Misery, I think what really works about Misery is that one contained space. It's two people that are just, going between each other. And then it's not about, Stephen King isn't starring in it. It's kind of about him, but it's not him. And I think that's what kind of helps that. If Stephen King was in that movie, I don't think people would like it because it's that same type of vanity project where like, I'm so amazing, I'm this great writer, look at me, I have these super fans. I think that is the ultimate problem with the movie, in a movie with a lot of other little issues. I don't think it's as disconnected as it seems. It does take a lot of time to get its footing, though. I think it's everywhere.
Well, I feel like what you're saying, where there's a lot of like interesting things, like interesting elements to this movie, and this is all just me guessing and saying things that might not be true, but like I think that the three-way split on the writing credits shows me that there probably was a better script here somewhere before the weekend was like wanted himself to be sucked off a little bit.
That's why he has a credit. Yeah.
That's why I was wondering, like, Rendan, do you know the background behind this movie? Like, is Schultz sort of a director writer for hire with this project, or was this something they conceived together?
As far as I'm aware, I haven't done a ton of research on it, but as far as I'm aware, it was like a joint thing between them two. So I think The Weeknd was the one that was kind of pitching this to. Like, he pitched it to Jenna Ortega. So I think this was definitely like The Weeknd's project that Trey Edward Schultz ultimately kind of made his own thing, as far as I've seen.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I mean, to me, this is in like the long history of movies that are made to promote an album, you know? Like, I don't necessarily put this in like Trey Edward Schultz's filmography proper, if you know what I mean, because it's like I don't know, it's like what Beyonce did with Lemonade, which was much more well received than this. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't really it feels like a promotional product almost more than a film to me, which is like, you know.
I agree with you, but I think a part of the problem is, like, I think this is probably the widest release Trey Edward Schultz has gotten, and I think it's going to make him look really bad.
Yeah, it does suck that that's the case, because I think Waves had a decently wide release, but not anything like this, because The Weeknd being attached to it is what made the movie, which is ultimately the most unfortunate part, because it's like he's the worst part, and it's clearly a vanity project for him that Trey is trying to make his own thing. And all of his other movies, when he's doing his own thing, have a similar vibe to this, I think, personally. Like, they all kind of have that weird quality where nothing's really I mean, It Comes at Night's a classic example where when that movie first came out, that was divisive too, because it was like, oh, this is a monster movie, everybody's gonna be attacked by these zombies or something, and then it was just people in a house that got angry at each other. And it's like the simplest movie ever, but nothing's explained. It's so methodically paced, everything feels weird and off, but the ending is what brings everything together. And I think this movie does have that, not nearly like his other ones. I think the ending does bring things together in a way that almost works. And it's so unfortunate that the scene when Jenna Ortega is playing Blinding Lights is right before it comes together. Because then he has that moment where he sings that one song, which is self-aggrandizing as well, but then he leaves and the whole thing's on fire, and he goes back and starts performing. And I was like, oh, okay, so this was about something. The problem is it's both a Trey Edward Schultz movie and a Weeknd album promotion, and they butt heads constantly.
Yeah. The Weeknd should never be allowed to act again.
No, I mean, The Idol sucks. The Idol, I have absolutely nothing good to say about. But
yeah.
The I'm curious. Are the other performances in this movie good, genuinely, or are
Barry
they
Kogan's
good?
Barry Kogan's always
comparison.
great.
He's great.
He's always great. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's great. Jenna Ortega kind of does her own thing, her normal like mopey thing.
Yeah.
I'm tired of her too.
Yeah.
Her and what's his name? The guy I hate that I always talk about.
Pedro
Tom
Pascal.
Holland.
Yeah, tired of both of them.
I mean, I think Pedro Pascal's a great actor. I think Jenna Ortega
he's
is
much better than Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega is an it girl for sure.
Yes.
I don't know how much farther she goes beyond the next 2 or 3 years.
Just see some like crazy Oscar type movie.
Yeah, I did like that they stripped it back a little bit though. Like it's basically just those three actors, Barry and Jenna and Abel. And I like that was the case. I like that they didn't push it too much. And Trey seems to have this thing where he always strips down his stories to like the bare essentials. And I think that's one thing that's turning a lot of people off to this as well. Because like Nick said, it does feel like, for the first half especially, oh man, it feels like it's all over the place. Like Jenna Ortega's burning her house down, and then there's a concert where he's just walking around and he's like, oh, my voice hurts, and then he's at a voice doctor, and then he's like snorting coke off of Barry Kogan's thumb, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on? And nothing is explained. They don't tell you what Jenna Ortega was doing, what this house was. It's only hinted at. And I think that is going to be very difficult to swallow if people haven't seen this, if they're going to see this. I think it does come together at the end with, like, Jenna Ortega, I think, kind of feels like they sort of pseudo explain that she's just this kind of ball of anger, like an angel of hatred that comes down on people and tries to force them to be a better person, which is kind of weird to say, but she has one phone call with her mom that was like one of the better moments in the movie, where she's just crying and her mom's screaming at her on the phone, like, you ruin everything, you destroy everything, you're the worst. And then she immediately starts to try and push Abel, like, you need to be honest with yourself, you need to be honest with me. And I was like, okay, I can see what they're doing there. She's this person that's going to just come in, she wants a certain thing a certain way, and if you don't give it to her, she's going to destroy your life, which I think kind of plays into the psychological element of the movie, because I think it does have some psychological bits in it, especially with her, where at the end of it, I was like, I don't even know if she was real or not. Like, at the end, the first scene in the movie is the scene when he's like doing that stupid like vocal exercise, and then it basically ends in the exact same spot, almost as if the entire movie took place in that brief moment between his vocal exercise and going on stage. So I found that sort of interesting, where, okay, he's having this psychological warfare inside of his own brain, but ultimately it's The Weeknd. And I go, oh, well, is this it for his album? I don't know.
Well, I was just wondering, like, do you find Jenna Ortega's character to be, I don't know, sort of problematic in a way? It's not necessarily the exact... it's not a one-to-one of the manic pixie dream girls of like the 2000s or whatever, but her entire purpose in the movie is to help The Weeknd realize something about his toxic behavior or something. Like, she doesn't necessarily have a characterization of her own aside from how she relates to him and his struggle, which is, I don't know, that's kind of, I think, a lot of what people were getting mad at The Idol for, which is, you know, it makes sense that The Weeknd's involved with this, because he doesn't really seem to know how to portray women on screen that isn't kind of gross, you know?
Yeah.
Which, it felt like this to me a little bit too.
Yeah, I can see that. I think I'd have more of a problem with it if anybody else had characterization, but I think at the end of the day, this is every single character is just like a flat line except for The Weeknd, which feeds into the aggrandizing, you know, stroking off thing that he's doing. So I think that's ultimately the problem, is that just everybody's mostly a flat line that's just there for him. And it's simultaneously a really not great look, but it's really the only way that I found any interesting thing in this, is because everybody else was just there for him, which feeds into that theory that it's just kind of all in his head and he's just kind of spiraling.
Yeah.
I think it's just like a hyper personification of like that like weird parasocial relationship. I don't think that she's necessarily supposed to be a deep character.
Yeah. That's part of it too, because she has like The Weeknd on her lock screen that they show for a brief second.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Ethan?
Yeah, the Weeknd, he really strikes me as a Hideo Kojima type. And by that I mean it's someone who has a very specific set of talents, but that does not have anything to do with movies, but they love movies and they really want to be a part of movies. So, and they're also in a position of power where they're able to get any project they want, even if it's shown that, hey, you're just not cut out for this specific thing. Like it's like a rich kid where they're like, Daddy, I want to go be a famous movie star, and then they go just try it, and they're bad at it.
Yeah, it's that one girl from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yes,
I want a golden goose.
It's like Rebecca Black wanting to be a famous star, and then made Friday, and then was famous for the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
it's a good point.
I will just say, this movie, like as people say these days, this movie gave me the ick. Like, it just made me feel gross. I couldn't enjoy it. It was hard.
Yeah, and I will say, like, it's interesting that Euphoria, the creator of that is Sam Levinson, and he worked on The Idol with The Weeknd, which I loved Euphoria. It's pretty good at least, and The Idol sucked. So it's like this movie. I love all of Trey Edward Schultz's other work, but this movie sucked. It's like The Weeknd is the common denominator in making these otherwise talented auteurs make really bad stuff. So I think it's just like Ethan said, maybe you should, stick to. He's got one thing.
You got a good voice, buddy.
Billions of people aren't lucky enough to have one thing. Just stick to your thing, man. What's so hard about that?
Yeah, that's a good point. He is the common denominator in his own demise.
Does Trey Edward Schultz have anything else like on the docket coming up in the next few years? Because I'd be really bummed if we don't get anything from him for another 5 years.
Yeah, we probably not. I don't know. I haven't looked.
Because when was Waves was like 2019, I think.
Yeah, I think
so that was a while ago.
Yeah, he from what I understand, he said it in like interviews before, but he seems to only make movies from like an emotional place, and specifically like a really difficult emotional place. And those they don't come up all that often, because like, I mean, Krisha was a very personal story about his family. And then It Comes at Night was a very personal story about like him losing his dad or his grandpa, I think. So they all come from these kind of dark and emotional places. And then there's this one.
Where the hell did this thing come from?
I don't know. Like, is this something he dealt with? I don't know.
I got an idea.
Like if somebody told me that he had his name attached to this, I wouldn't have believed him.
Yeah.
Carte Blanche.
I wouldn't either. It has some of his trademarks. Like he puts his stamp on it a little bit if you actually know his work, but beyond that, it's remote.
Yeah. Well, visually it was cool. There were some kind of cool little transitions and like dreamy psychedelic light things that I appreciated about
the cinematography wasn't the problem. It was like the scenes themselves were kind of bad. Like it was all like a writing aspect that was kind of the failure.
Yeah, and he even did his aspect ratio changes in this one too, where he had it at like anamorphic and then Academy aspect, and I think he had it at 4:3 at one point too. So he did that as well, which again, like that type of stuff, every time I see it, I like lean forward in my seat, like that one gamer photo where I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm going to lock in. And I think that's probably why I ended up liking this more than everybody else. Cause I was like, okay, at least he's trying something. You can tell that at least Trey was trying. I don't know if The Weeknd was, but Trey was clearly trying to do something. And that's why I kind of respect it.
So Trey was like
The Weeknd was trying. Sorry, what were you saying, Ethan?
No, like Trey's trapped in like the sunken place, and The Weeknd's controlling his body.
Yeah. No, I think The Weeknd was trying. I just think the main thing that he was trying to do was to get the audience to feel bad for him. That's the main thing. He was trying too hard. He's trying to make people be like, it's hard for me too. But it's like, how many fucking times have we heard stories about that from celebrities where it's like the fame, I'm struggling from success, like the DJ Khaled shit of just like looking sad while you're wearing like a million gold chains or whatever. And it's like, dude, we're all dying right now in 2025. Maybe that shit you could get away with that shit like back in the heyday of like Drake's era where he was first popping off with Take Care and everything. But it seems like we've moved so far beyond that. I don't feel like we want to there's a thirst for people to be hearing these sob stories from extremely famous and well-off people about how their lives are difficult because of their fame. Like, I'm not hungry for shit like that at this point.
The Weeknd complaining about it, that his life is hard and he has a net worth of $300 to $350 million.
Yep.
I don't know. I'd pay good money to see like a behind the scenes of how this fucking movie came about.
That'd be more interesting than the movie, probably.
100%.
I mean, did it have like a troubled production? Because I didn't hear anything about this movie. I just heard it came out and everyone's like,
not as far as I know.
No, from what I understand, like, I read a little, I think it was an interview, or I heard an interview where The Weeknd was talking about how he like lost his passion for music, and this was such a great creative process that it like reawakened his creative side. So like I don't think this was like a struggle for anybody. But I totally agree with you, Nick, where I think I said it in my video. Everybody's got problems, obviously. Even people with net worth of $300 billion have issues. The issue is we don't have $300 billion and most of us are down on our ass. So we don't want to hear those problems. I don't want to hear Steve Jobs talking about how it rained one day and he didn't like it. Like, no, I don't care. I don't care about The Weeknd saying, yeah, I'm struggling with my girls. I'm like, nah, dude, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah. It felt like this is the issue that I have with artists like Drake in The Weeknd, where it's like, oh, I do drugs and I have sex with so many beautiful women, but it makes me sad. You know, it's not really fulfilling. Ultimately,
it's not.
I
really
live the life that
connection.
Everybody wants, but it's not fulfilling me. I have a hole inside.
I'm in my
me.
feelings.
I'm sitting in my mansion with a
I wish
blank
I was
void
poor
in my
like
chest.
you, sad
Yeah,
sacks.
get real, dude.
Yeah,
but I don't really wish I was poor.
I can't get with it. I don't know. But I would like to touch on one thing that Nick was saying earlier about how I think that Trey Edward Schultz might take a career hit from this. I don't really think that's true. I think he's got a proven track record of making really good stuff as long as The Weeknd's not in it. And I think, as I was saying before, it's a piece of promotional material that is sort of also a movie. And I think anyone else, he works with A24 a lot. I mean, I'm sure they would be more than willing to give him another shot, with a budget.
Absolutely.
To do
I don't think his career is dead. I just think it's a bad look, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. It is a bad look. I mean, I think in the case of him, he might be safer simply because A, he has a good track record, but B, like Ethan said, he just doesn't make movies. Like it's 7 years to make a movie. Like, I mean, at that point, he's going to get a budget. If Ari Aster is going to get a budget after Beau is Afraid, Trey Edward Schultz can get a budget after this. If what's his name I can't remember his name, doesn't matter, but yeah, I don't think I've seen on Twitter occasionally where people are like, they're in director's jail. And I'm like, I don't think that exists for guys. I don't think director's jail is a real thing. I think if you have a really bad flop, then studios might be like, I don't know, maybe we won't give you 200 billion like in Beau is Afraid. But A24 will take a chance on Ari Aster every day of the week.
Yeah, but I think Beau is Afraid wasn't ever expected to be a hit, though. I think that was
true.
like a one for us,
it was
one for you
destined to be a bomb.
That was his blank check movie for sure.
Yeah, it really was.
And Babylon, that's what I was trying to think of. Babylon with Damien Chazelle. I love that movie.
That one,
but
Babylon is probably. I think that's probably going to hurt his career. Honestly,
it could. I still think that smaller studios will take a chance, though.
No, for sure. I just don't think he's ever getting a budget that big again.
Yeah, but that's good. That it'll be good for him to work within some limitations, I think, because he did his best work in that way. Do you guys know what is the budget for Eddington? I'm just trying to see what that is.
That's a good question.
I'm curious if
A24 probably I'd guess 50 or so.
Yeah, 50 to 100 probably, because he's got big names in it, like really big names.
Yeah, Pedro's in it. Joaquin's in it.
Yep. Yeah, I think with all of those three examples, Beau is Afraid, Babylon, and even Hurry Up Tomorrow to some extent, I like movies like that. I really, and this is probably where my blind spot comes in a little bit, where I much prefer the ambitious failure to another Marvel movie, for example. Like I would much prefer to watch a stupid and weird Hurry Up Tomorrow than the Lilo and Stitch movie. Because I've already seen Lilo and Stitch. So I would rather watch a weird and kind of stupid movie like Butt Boy. I would rather watch Butt Boy. Even if I didn't really like it, I would rather watch something like that than another Marvel movie, even though I did like Thunderbolts. I'll give him that.
Well, the way I agree with you, but I think the way I see it is like for the cost of one Lilo and Stitch, we could have fucking 100 Butt Boys, you know? So it's like
the dream.
The chances
100 Butt Boys.
The chances of like having like these gems whenever you're making these smaller budget movies is so much higher. And if there were more of them being made, we have a lot better landscape for film.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, like back in the 70s, 80s, 90s when comedies were the biggest budgets and they were 50, 60 million, like the Blues Brothers, which is a great comedy. It was like a $60 million budget and it was the biggest at the time. Terminator is like a $10 million budget and it's one of the best classic movies ever. So yeah, I agree. I think I'd prefer to see middle budgets come back, but then you get, stupid, weird movies that people don't like. And like A Cure for Wellness is a great example. That's another one weird ass movie that I enjoyed. That was like $50 million and it bombed and was absolutely destroyed critically. And now that those movies just don't get made.
That actor, he's so good. And he kind of disappeared. What's his name? I forgot.
Dane DeHaan,
Yeah.
the
He
Green
played
Goblin.
Harry,
I like him.
Harry
Yeah.
Osborn, right?
He was
Green Goblin. Yes.
Yeah.
He's
He
horrible.
was in
that.
Valerian. He
He's
was in
got meth
Valerian,
face.
and I think that like bombed his fucking career.
Yeah,
And
that movie.
Chronicle.
that
I
was-
rewatched Chronicle a while ago. That was pretty
Chronicle's
good.
great.
I like Chronicle.
Chronicle's
yeah.
great.
I like Dane
Speaking of
DeHaan.
director's jail,
Oh yeah,
director of
Josh
Chronicle,
Trank.
he is.
he did it to himself though, with Fan
Yeah.
What was
Stick,
the-
and then destroyed,
Yeah,
like
that's what he did.
condemned the studio. Like,
And then he's
ooh.
just like, "This is the trashiest film." Like the week before it came out, he's like, "This is garbage. It was not my
Yeah.
artistic vision." Yeah,
And then didn't he make that like Capone movie? Did anybody see that?
yeah.
That movie was ass. So
Josh
I
Trank.
forgot about
Yeah,
that.
he made Capone with Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy, yeah, I was excited
That
for it.
shit blew fucking.
It was so
ball
bad.
sacks,
I was
bro.
excited for it because LP did the score for it, and I really like his work. And then I was like,
Oh,
okay,
he's
I'll give
great.
Josh Trank another chance. And I was like, this is so bad.
LP is one of the best rapper producers of all time. I think he.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy's on his
Top 3.
Tom Hardy's on his like dog shit arc though lately. I
Yeah,
watched
you're
his. There was some.
You don't love
There was
the
some
Venom
movie.
trilogy?
No, I watched Venom the other day. That movie sucked. The newer one, that one sucked. And then he was also in this straight to Netflix movie by Garth. What's his name? The guy who
Ennis?
made The Raid.
No,
Yeah,
Gareth
Gareth
Evans.
Edwards.
Gareth
Or
Edwards.
Evans
Gareth-
is the Raid.
whatever.
Edwards is Rogue One.
Right.
Yeah, Gareth
Thank you.
Evans. He made, which was Gareth Evans' new movie, and it was so fucking terrible, bro.
Oh,
it
I
was,
didn't watch it.
It was god awful.
Yeah, I watched that
everything
Venom
I've seen
movie,
Tom
though.
Hardy and sucked lately.
Wait,
I
so
will
let's-
say I laughed hysterically in Venom though.
Let's do ratings for Hurry Up. What is
Oh,
it
yeah.
again? Hurry Up Tomorrow.
Forgot
Hurry
we're
up
doing that.
tomorrow. Let's get to the weekend.
I'd give it a
Um,
5.
I'll go 3.
That's more generous
I'll
than I
give it
thought
a
you'd
1.
be.
I'll give it a 10 out of 10. I'm feeling pretty good about this.
Thank
movie.
you, Ethan.
I don't think there's anything really positive I can say about the movie.
I think it looked nice in certain ways. I love Barry Keoghan. He's one of my favorite actors. So I think
He's the Joker, baby,
that's
right?
enough.
I'm
Yeah.
not a
He
huge
is the
fan of
Joker,
Barry
yeah.
Keoghan he seems like a really bad person in real life.
Whoa.
He's always a good performer.
Yeah.
But like everything I've seen of him, he seems like a kind of a shitty
I
person.
think you're just being
Yeah,
racist
maybe.
against Irish
It's
people.
because
or
he cheated
something.
on Sabrina Carpenter, so that's something we
well,
can't
there's
forgive.
the cheating thing,
Yeah,
and then
that
like every
sucks.
time I see one of his interviews, he's like, "Oh man, he
You
does
gotta
that
do the
thing you were
accent.
talking about where like, no, I'm not doing it." And he always acts like he has such a fucking hard life and everything. Like if I make one false step, I'm just gonna be a heroin addict just like my mother. And it's just like,
You
dude,
know,
shut the
only be
fuck up,
left
bro.
playing the Joker.
Yeah,
Maybe
I
that's
don't
why
know.
he was in this movie. He's like,
Yeah.
I agree with you. That was a horrible Irish or whatever accent. What is he? Is he Irish or Scottish? What
He's
is he?
Irish.
Irish,
He's
yeah.
Irish.
I can't
He's
do
Irish.
those. I can do British. Okay, I can't. Irish is tricky. Or
Yeah, I've got Irish people in my family, and I can't
He
do
was
it.
in
So I'm not even gonna
Eternals
try.
as Druig.
But yeah,
wasn't bad.
dude, one of my favorite moments of the worst moment I think of the entire like post 2020 MCU is when there's Brian Tyree Henry and Salma Hayek are standing in the rubble of like Hiroshima,
And they're like this.
and
they're like,
he's
this is
just like,
supposed to
What is
happen.
this?
He's like, Druig was right. He just said he falls to his knees and says Druig was right about. I can't even remember the context of
Talking about
it.
the Eternals?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Eternals.
I don't
It's
even
just-
remember that.
Yeah, because he's like Druig Barry Keoghan's character the entire time is because he's the one that can control people. He can like
He is,
turn
like,
everyone
mind
into
control.
a cult.
Wow,
Yeah,
I
so
forgot
he's
about
like
this.
these people can't be trusted. Like we need to have basically like more of an iron fist with them. And after Hiroshima, Brian Tyree Henry's like Druig was right. I just always think about that just being a ridiculous moment of a
That's so
Marvel
funny.
movie to just
Wow.
make light of a tragedy like that.
I'd
But,
love to intercut that movie with Oppenheimer and just see how it goes.
yeah,
Might be
yeah.
something there.
That would be that's a great a fan edit. As soon as the bombs goes off, it just cuts to the Eternals for 5 minutes.
Druig was right, and then it cuts back to Cillian Murphy.
God damn it.
Wait, so I wanted to bring this up on the pod for a while now. I saw Red Letter Media was talking about this. This is where I sort of picked up this scoop, but they were talking about how for so long the Blumhouse model of keeping budgets for horror movies really, really small, under 20 million to 10, sometimes even under 10. No matter what, they're going to turn a profit, because horror is always like a reliable box office draw for people. Because, you know, there's kids on date nights or whatever. People want to go see a horror movie in the theaters. But it seems like even now, like their recent films like Woman in the Yard and Night Swim, like they were gigantic bombs, which like even just 2 or 3 years ago, movies like that would have been at least, you know, considerable profit centers for the studio. I'm just curious, like, what do you guys think about that? Like, why is horror not doing so well at the box office anymore?
I don't know. Maybe people's like expectations are slightly higher now, but I don't even know if, like, even if they have the occasional bomb, the great thing about their model from a, you know, marketing point of view is that it is so sustainable, and even if they take a few licks on the chin, they still made Five Nights at Freddy's, which made $1 billion.
Yeah. What was
I don't think
the budget for that? Was that really small
like
too?
100
really
or
low,
like 50 mil or something like that. It was really small, like 40-50 mil.
I agree with Ethan. I think the movies bomb sometimes. I think
No,
it doesn't
was
mean
20 million. I'm sorry, $20 million, and it made $1 billion.
Jeez.
I don't think the genre's going anywhere. I think that just movies have to be either extremely bad or like at least watchable, and they'll make money.
Yeah.
At the box office, even though, I don't know. It seems like everything is doing worse this year. It seems like that's been a trend. Yeah.
It feels like that. I mean, I'm a big horror guy, and I didn't even bother watching those. I don't know what it is. I think there is a twofold problem right now with the film industry in general, is that we're like the ease of access to make a movie has never been lower. Like, I mean, Tangerine's made with a phone, right? And it's fantastic. So you can literally make a movie with your phone, with your friends. The first movie Christopher Nolan made, it was Following, and he made that just on the weekends with his friends. And that was like the 90s. And now it's so much easier. So I think that's part of it. There's this emblandening of a lot of things because there is so much content, and movies unfortunately aren't seen, I think, right now as much as art as they are as content. People just, and like Blumhouse especially, if you go on Hulu right now, there's a whole section specifically for Blumhouse movies that they made for like $1 million and just sharded out on Hulu. So like I think that's one issue. And I think another issue is streaming. As great as it is, like the Friday Nights at Freddy's came out simultaneously on Peacock and in theaters. It didn't hurt it in that case, but I think in the case of The Woman in the Yard, where it's not attached to anything and it looks just like a kind of a horror movie, a woman sits in the yard and she looks creepy, I think people are way more they're way more ready to say, I'll just wait a couple months to see that. I don't feel the desire to see that. I can just put it on when it's on Netflix, and I can get my girl to my house and we'll watch it here.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about a lot of these like horror, like lower budget horror movies that like did pretty well, they also have like these names attached to them. Like you have like think about what's the one, The Purge? They had Ethan Hawke attached. Right. Then you think of like The Surfer recently had Nicolas Cage attached, and then Black Box, I think that was also Ethan Hawke. I mean, I feel like you can't just release a shitty
Black
like
Phone.
Night Swim was
Black
Phone.
Black Phone.
Night Swim was fucking god awful, and there was nobody to like draw people in.
Yeah,
right?
Kurt Russell's son.
Yeah, exactly. Like put in like a fairly large name actor,
Well,
and even if the movie
Wyatt
sucks,
Russell.
you could probably make your money back.
U.S. Agent
Wyatt
himself is in Night Swim.
He's I think he'll be a draw now that he's in the Marvel.
Yeah,
thing,
he wasn't a
I think.
draw when that came out.
No, I actually like him, but no, he's not the box office of a Ethan Hawke or whoever.
Yeah.
I think they were just not smart choices.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And then there's some that just like randomly do super well too. Like that Megan movie. That movie's not even that good, and it just went crazy. And now there's Megan 2.0.
Well, they had a really good trailer, bro. That's really all that it was. The dancing
Good
in the
marketing.
trailer, they were gonna make their money.
Yeah, the virality of the TikTok dance and everything.
Mathregan 2.0, it looks horrible.
I did see it.
It looks really
It
bad.
looks
They
embarrassing.
doubled down on everything I disliked about it.
Hold on to your vaginas.
Yeah,
But like, to your point, Rendan, I think another big part of it is because you're talking about people just be like, "Oh, I'll just wait a couple months or whatever, but that time period between the end of the box office run to the beginning of it being on VOD and streaming is just shortening and shortening and shortening.
It's like a
that,
month or 2-3 weeks now.
Yeah, like that companion movie with that
dude,
with Huey from The Boys, Jack Quaid.
It was 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was like barely anything. I actually really liked that movie. I thought it was good.
Mm-hmm.
It was okay.
It was definitely watchable, and I feel like something like that would have done well in the theaters in like the 2010s, especially because
I think did it do bad?
It did pretty bad, yeah. That's why they put it onto streaming so quickly. And he's in The Boys. Like The Boys is a pretty big deal, I think. He's a star.
He did Novocaine. I'm pretty sure Novocaine did okay.
Novocaine
didn't really even do that well either, though.
Well, it did okay it broke even. It did okay for its budget because it wasn't a very expensive movie.
Right. I like Novocaine.
I think
I like Novocaine too.
Someone pointed out, I saw like a tweet and they were just like, Thunderbolts just kind of made its money back and like a little bit more.
Barely.
And they're like, guys, Marvel just kind of needs to expect like anything that's not an event movie is probably gonna, hopefully it'll do these numbers. They're not gonna make $1 billion off of every movie anymore. Like that's just kind of, we're not to that point anymore.
Well, Thunderbolts also like doesn't have any characters people really give a shit about in it either.
Well, if it was a bad movie, it would have made way less money because people were going to see it because of word of mouth, because it was so positive. Even if it had no characters people cared about. And like Captain America 4 did slightly better, but still like it had a bigger first weekend, but a worse, longer lasting box office because it wasn't very good.
Yeah, it's trash.
So Thunderbolts actually ended up making more overall than Captain America?
I don't know about total. I'll check.
I think it's creeping up on it. I don't know. It didn't do great, but yeah, I don't know. It's a weird issue right now. I don't know what it is 100%. It could be that, concessions will cost you $100 for a family and then $60 for tickets on top of that. I don't think a lot of people want to spend that money to go to a movie anymore either when they can get it at home for their monthly subscription. I think that hurts it too. But I also think that right now people do want, as often as I hear Hollywood's out of ideas, Hollywood only does reboots, Hollywood only does remakes, the people that say that are the people that only see those. And I think that's also an issue. Because one of my very good friends says that constantly. And then he goes, hey, did you see the new Marvel movie? And I'm like, well, what do you want then? Like, you can't be saying this and then doing this. Like, your actions don't meet up with that. So I think people have this desire to just see what they're familiar with, even if they consciously don't think they want it.
Do you have any standouts this year, Rendan, that you've seen?
Yeah, there's been a couple actually that I've really enjoyed. I mean, Novocaine's up there, honestly. I really, really liked Novocaine. I thought that was a really fun action movie that had a really good gimmick. Obviously, Sinners was up there for me too. What? I had a lot of fun with Sinners. And IMAX was great. Seeing the Irish jig, I never felt like more of a white devil watching that movie though. Like I was like, but Mickey 17. I know that's polarizing, but Mickey 17.
I loved it too.
That's my favorite movie of the year right now. I just bought it on 4K. I've watched it like 5 times. I love it. I'm working on a script.
I rewatched it too, and I like it more.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Every time I watch it gets better, man. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
I gotta watch it. It's out on Max now, right? I gotta watch it.
It's on Max.
When I watched it first, I watched hopefully no one from the FBI is listening to this, but I watched a bootleg version of it, and there was like those fucking horrible ads that pop up while you're watching,
like the casino ads.
Yeah, I think that kind of really diminished my viewing experience. Sorry, go on.
No, you're good. No, I think it does get better on every subsequent watching. Because like there's so many little things about it where on the first watch it feels so weird and disjointed, and even Sinners kind of felt like that at first, where I was like, the vampires show up like 45 minutes into the movie, what's going on? And then it's similar to Mickey 17, where it opens with that nearly, not quite, but nearly like record scratch. How did I get in this situation? And it lost me immediately on my first watch. And then as I kind of felt it out and understood it better, I got it a little bit better. So I would definitely recommend watching it again. But I think one of the sleeper hits this year for me was Warfare 2, the Alex Garland movie.
I really want to.
It's weird. It's weird because it does paint the U.S. military as like heroes and icons in this really horrible situation. but I think it's so well executed that I was able to overlook that.
What did you think of Civil War?
It's another controversial take. I like Civil War. I actually really enjoyed it.
I liked it. It wasn't, I think, what I expected or what anyone was expecting based on the way it was marketed, but I thought it was a really interesting take on what war does to people. I think the focus on the photojournalism of it all was kind of strange, but once I just like acclimated myself to that, I was like, okay, I appreciate what he's trying to say with this.
Yeah. I actually really love Civil War, and it oddly enough caused a civil war with a lot of my friends, where some people really enjoyed it, and then I knew a couple people that absolutely hated it. Were like 1 out of 10, this movie's the worst, and in every single case, they were like, this movie is the worst because it doesn't take a political stand on anything, and that's why it's so bad. It's like I don't love that it does that. I think that it's cowardly. And I'm like, well, that's like the point.
I feel like it kind of did take a political stance, though.
Yeah, I thought it did too. It's kind of amoral, but it's like, look, war is like the worst, you know? It really is the worst. And like the best scene in the movie is that sniper scene when they pull up on those guys and they're like, who's over there? Is it the enemy? And they're like, no, it's just a guy shooting at us. Like, what else do you want? Like, we're shooting at them because they're shooting at us. And I was like, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it, but I definitely did find it kind of boring, but a lot of that was just due to my expectations of what I expected to watch.
I haven't seen it yet, but is it true that Texas and California are an alliance?
Yeah.
That's the most unrealistic part.
That's instantly unrealistic.
That's one thing about him being a British guy that I think he doesn't really understand about American politics. That also could be why he didn't really take a political stance, because he maybe just doesn't know enough about American politics. I don't know. Perhaps that's what it is.
I could see that.
I haven't seen it yet, but I have a strong feeling Friendship might be one of my favorite movies of the year.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Did you like it?
I really enjoyed it. I really, really liked it. I think you guys will love
it.
Yeah, Tim Robinson. I just finished the script for it today. I think it's really great. It's not what I expected at all. And I will give you guys a little bit of a warning. It is one of the most difficult movies to watch in certain points of it, where intentionally. Because it is so awkward and uncomfortable, like the Tim Robbins classic thing. So if you love his style, you'll love this. I thought it was great.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite trailers I've seen in the past couple of years. I think it's just such a time. I don't really know if it does tackle like male loneliness epidemic stuff. I think it's very timely for a movie like that to be.
It does. Yeah, it tackles that, and it's a little bit more broad than I would have expected it to be, but it tackles that a little bit. I think the overall message of it is that people aren't really who you expect them to be or think that they are, and if you put people on a pedestal or idolize people, you're going to end up being kind of miserable because they aren't who you expect them to be. So I think that's kind of the message of it, but the male loneliness epidemic is very bad, and I liked that it kind of addressed that as well.
Yeah, because I haven't really seen a movie about that. I mean, I think films touch on it a little bit, but for this movie to be marketed so much in line with that,
like Fight Club does.
Well, but the male loneliness epidemic it's kind of like a modern problem that's unique to now. I mean, it was always going on, but it's an internet age problem. I think more so than it was going on in the 90s.
No,
so
yeah,
I haven't seen
agree.
like a modern take on it, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually just talking about this almost exact thing with my parents. I went over to their house for Memorial Day steaks, and I was just talking about, it's like I think I read a study that's like 65% of males in like the 20s to 30s are single and not looking for relationships, which is insane. Like the birth rate is all-time low, life expectancy is all-time low. Relationships are at all-time low. It is a social media thing, and that's something that Friendship doesn't tackle at all. I think it goes out of its way to kind of feel like a movie out of its time a little bit. So kind of have that expectation going. It's not really modern at all, even though it mentions it a little bit.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting. It feels like a 70s movie set in 2024. It's weird, but I like it.
What do you guys, switching gears, what do you guys think is the primary driving cause of the male loneliness epidemic? If you had to solve one of the greatest sociological problems of our time on a podcast.
We're getting philosophical now.
I think a lot of it has to do with perceived expectations. I think a lot of people are afraid that, say they get into a relationship, right? That person is going to want all the things that social media makes them think they need. They need like to be ready to support somebody for their entire life. They need to be ready to fucking have kids. They need to be ready to do all these things that they don't feel ready to do, but they don't necessarily need that, right? They just need somebody who also cares about them, that they care about. And they don't see that, right? I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Yeah,
Is like perceived expectation.
It's interesting to me because it's like, I think there is a societal expectation for a lot of men to, like, you have that traditional view of what a man should be, you know, according to America, where it's like, you're the man of the house, you make all the money, your wife stays home and watches the kids, and you're the breadwinner. And we're at a point where the economy, this always comes back to fucking capitalism. That's impossible now, unless you're working one of the most high-paying jobs of all time and living in a really like rural part of the country. There is no way you're going to be able to survive unless you're in like a tiny ass apartment. And just a lot of that is like, I don't know. I think there's a lot of men that are insecure about maybe not making as much, you know, money, or not being able to do that in the current economy. And a lot of them just don't try. I know a lot of people that are like, have expectations about women, but they don't even try to talk to women. They're like, oh yeah, all women just want someone over 6'4" and blah 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 blah. That's why I don't date. And I'm just like, have you tried? Well, no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then you can't fucking complain.
Yeah, it is a weird issue, and I think there's a bit of everything from like what you guys said, and then on top of that, I think it's like a 3-pronged thing. For me, like, as great as it was at the time, I do think the Me Too movement had a lot of really negative effects on men in general, where they saw so many people go down. And like, I mean, and then there was the cancel culture immediately after that, where if you said anything remotely bad, you're going down. And I think that kind of sparked this weird fear in people, where now I don't want to touch any, like even touch on the arm. I don't want to talk to women because I could be perceived in a certain way. And I think that had a really negative effect on people. And then on top of that, COVID comes around, and then everything in culture becomes convenience oriented. People are remote working. People are ordering DoorDash to the house. People are, you know, OnlyFans becomes a $8 billion corporation, because now these depressed, lonely men have this outlet to simulate every aspect of life. They can simulate having a relationship in OnlyFans. They can simulate going out and getting food by just having DoorDash. They can simulate having a job remote working, and they don't have to put in the effort to really do any of that. They just pay a little convenience fee. And I think that's a huge negative too. And then on top of all that is social media, where I think women have this an issue right now where it becomes so easy to get validation and approval by just putting a photo of them out. Like, oh, you can have 1,000 guys immediately say you're the most beautiful woman ever. You just put a photo out, or you go on Tinder and suddenly you have 1,000 likes and a guy gets 2. You know, I think that's part of it too, where women have the pick of the litter and of these really sad and lonely men that want a woman but don't know how to go about it. And then the women get this validation and no one's approaching them. So they're like, I'll just keep doing this, you know?
But I think there's even a problem with guys that are in relationships that the only people they actually talk to are their partners.
Yes.
You know, like the male loneliness epidemic, I think, reaches past just romantic interests. It's also the fact that like men don't really have strong friendships with men that much even. You know, they'll just be at home most of the time. And like you said, simulating aspects of friendship or simulating aspects of sexual relationships or romantic relationships at home online. So it's like,
but I think a lot of that lack of closeness with other men also stems from a lot of the same problems, though, where like online people are comparing them, like people compare themselves to so much to other people. And I feel like a lot of people, like, opening up to another man is like allowing yourself to seem lesser than them. And a lot of people don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that goes in line with your perceived expectations too, where men are expected to be the breadwinner. They're expected to, I mean, maybe not so much now, but they're expected to be the man, to approach the woman, to take the lead, to be dominant. And in a culture where people are scared, they're just not doing that either. So it's hard. It's hard to take the lead. It's hard to say, hey, I made reservations at this restaurant at 8. do you want to come? I mean, that's difficult to do in some way. I don't find it that difficult, but I know a lot of people are like, it's scary. It's really scary to go out on a date with somebody, even if you know them. Everybody gets nervous, but it's part of that reality now where you don't have to, do anything. I saw a tweet recently that I can't stop thinking about. It was like this girl tweeted like, when the DoorDash delivery driver knocks on the door, and it was the shot from Euphoria when Sydney Sweeney's in the tub. Yeah, hiding in the tub. And the first comment was like, can you people do anything anymore? And I was like, no, I guess not, because we're hiding from people that are just trying to give you food.
Yeah.
Well, think about this. Like, of the people you consider friends, all of you, like, how many of those people would you actually tell some of your like deeper issues, right? Like things that are actually like deeply bothering you, or like, I don't know, like basically be vulnerable to? How many of your friends? Like, what
Count
percent?
them on one hand.
Percent? Yeah, it's low.
I don't know about percent. I can give you like 1 or 2. That's about it.
Yeah, I've probably got 3 or 4.
Like a friend,
but
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm an open wound. I'll tell anybody anything. So like,
He's gonna be in a bar telling everybody his sorrows.
Yeah, like I don't just talk about the stuff to strangers, but like I'm basically comfortable telling any of my friends how I'm feeling.
That's good.
Unless it's like, I don't want to like overdo it with it, but I don't have a lot of those issues, I guess, because I don't know. I think I've been like. I'm the kind of guy that's like more in touch with like traditionally feminine characteristics, like understanding my emotions and like sharing them and exploring that side of myself and being comfortable with that, and rather than like pushing it away. But that being said, I still have issues like actually getting out of the house and like seeing friends. I isolate. And I think that's so much of that. A lot of it comes from being a content creator too, because it's like, I don't know, a lot of what I'm trying to do, it can all be accomplished by just sitting in this fucking chair.
Yep.
So it's like,
it's interesting too, because I think I struggle being vulnerable with people, definitely. Like it is difficult for me, even with really close friends, because I wasn't super vulnerable as a kid either. I tended to do what I'm doing now, sit in my room alone and watch a movie or something. So I didn't have to be vulnerable. And now it's come to bite me in the ass, because now I really struggle with it. But it's something I'm working on. And I think in terms of this loneliness epidemic, I also think there's a hint of people don't really know what they want or how to fix it either. And I like, if you want a relationship, you have to kind of understand what kind of relationship you want, right? So it's like, okay, if you want a Catholic girl, where do you go to get a Catholic girl with Catholic morals? You go to a Catholic church. If you want a girl that's going to be, love the nightlife, you go to a club, right? So you have to put yourself in the rooms to actually pick up the women that you want. And most of the time people don't even know that's what they want. Like, I just want a girlfriend.
Well, not even just that. You have to live through the bad relationships to realize what you don't want,
right?
Which is what
until you've
wait, sorry, go on, Nick.
No, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just saying, like, which is why I'm kind of a lot of people are kind of anti-online dating, but I'm a big proponent of it. Since I've, basically my entire adult life, since online dating has been a thing, every relationship that I've had, most of them have been good, have been a result of online dating. And I think a lot of that stems from, one, being introverted and not really, also what you were saying, Rendan, too, like, not the worst thing that you can be as a guy is to be perceived as a creep. I don't want to like go up and be like, hey, what's up, girl?
Right.
Online dating, it provides that like base. It establishes a base of mutual attraction and mutual interest between people. Before you meet them in person, they at least think there's something about you that makes them want to actually give you the time of day. Whereas if you go up to someone in a bar, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I mean, I think if people are going to use these tools that we have online, the best case scenario of that is to use online tools to actually make real life connections. I think that's good.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I think the problem is it's kind of abused a lot of the time for like Like, a lot of people just use it to like harass people and do all kinds of weird shit. You know?
The trust level has gone down.
Definitely. I mean, I'm a psychopath, so I just assume everybody will be attracted to me. So I'm just like, hey, what up? But I do think online dating, it has its pros and its cons. I mean, like you said, I think that's the best part about it, is that it establishes the baseline that you're both at least attracted to each other. Because, like, I mean, for Tinder, for me, I've tried Tinder and I found it so soulless, because it's literally like basing women just based on how attracted I am to them. Because most of the time it's just here for a long time, or here for a good time, not a long time, in the bio. And I'm like, okay, I know nothing about you other than that you're hot. And so that hurt it for me a little bit. But it does have a good purpose. I think it can establish a good baseline for people. I think it connects people that would never see each other. And like you said, if you're introverted, it's perfect, because you can meet other introverted people that won't put themselves in the rooms to meet people. So I think that I think it's a net positive.
And I think this is a hot take, but I think because of online dating, because of the wide swath of potential partners that it introduces people our age and younger to, I think it will make the divorce rate go down as we age. Because if you think about it,
Hope so.
If you ask most of our parents and most of the people our parents know that are also their age, how did they meet? Mutual friends, almost always. So that potential pool of people that they're meeting is just, it's like 50 people maybe that are just like people that live in the surrounding towns or their town, and that's all that they really had to pick and choose from. We have millions of people, especially if you live in an urban center. There's so many people.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think the more normalized it becomes to get married at a later age, the lower divorce rate's going to be. I think the biggest reason so many people get divorced is because they get married way too fucking early.
Yeah, but they also met way fewer people than we have by the time they did get married. So like you were saying,
but that's going to happen regardless of whether you have an app or not.
They don't know what they like as much. Whether it's apps or not, I think the apps help you to kind of hone what you like, what you don't like, and what you're actually looking for in a partner. I think that's what it's done for me.
That's fair.
Whereas if you just marry the first or second person you meet, like that's not,
Yeah.
Could you imagine marrying your high school sweetheart at 18?
I mean, I live in Utah, so I've seen that. Yeah. I knew a guy that got married in high school. So yeah.
I said that.
I had no idea.
And I'm still married. I'm 26, so it's working out for me. I passed.
It's different for everybody.
What is the threshold where it's like? I think it's like the average is like 5 years. It might be less than that. I don't know.
I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't mean to say that.
No,
I was just like, could you imagine what kind of psycho would do that? I didn't mean to.
It is always funny because I always like all of our friends are like, you guys are freaks. Like, how did that happen? Like everybody we've known who did the same exact thing. It's just like that was years ago. They're just like, oh yeah. We got divorced and they've been remarried like twice, and I'm like, yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Well, I've never even been engaged before.
Me either.
Like
Yeah,
love will abide, like Linda Ronstadt says.
Yeah, my 10-year high school reunion was real crazy though. Seeing all the people divorced and seeing the high school sweethearts that were still together, that was wild.
I still got that coming up.
Did a lot of people get married young in your area, Rendan?
Oh yeah. Utah. I think Utah is like statistically the lowest age for marriage in the entire world. I think it's like 23.
Oh wow.
Like a ton of people from high school got married. They're high school sweethearts, and then they go to BYU or BYU Idaho or UVU, these schools that are predominantly Mormon Christian schools, and then they meet somebody just like them and they get married within months. I knew a guy that went on a first date and married and asked her to marry him on the second date. So, and that's kind of common here, which is wild to me, but he's still married. He's still married. So I guess maybe they got something going on.
Yeah. That's Utah's the like Mormon epicenter of America, right?
Yeah,
so
that's like 96% Mormon or something.
Because they all are like expected to be married by the time they're like 20.
Yep, it is an expectation for sure.
And then they live the secret lives of Mormon wives.
Yeah, I actually knew I don't want to air him out a little bit, but I actually knew a guy whose wife is on that show, which is crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Literally, yeah, I know him
That's
personally.
Hilarious.
Wait, they're still married. They're
are
currently
they still married?
No. They're divorced, and then she went on the show and basically aired out all the dirty laundry about how nasty the divorce was.
Oh, wait, what's her name? Because my wife watches.
I can't remember her name now.
I have to know.
I'll DM it to him.
Yeah, I'll find it and I'll DM you
we'll
afterwards. I'll DM you afterwards. But
yeah,
I still know him actually. I literally saw him today.
Wait, so Ren, speaking of have you ever seen what was it, SLC Punk?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that on the podcast.
Utah or Salt Lake City.
I need to watch it again. I think it's literally been like 15 years, so I can't say for sure, but I remember it being somewhat accurate, but I was also a teenager, so.
Well, it's Utah. It's like Salt Lake City through a very specific lens, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like punks being like, "Look, this is all bullshit, man."
Yeah, Utah's super interesting because almost every city has its own culture within itself. And I mean, probably most states are like that, but Utah is all over the board. Like Salt Lake City is as close to like Portland, Oregon as you can get as far as like political leaning. That's the only part of Utah where the majority of people are liberal, and then everywhere else is like yeehaw central. I mean, especially like I live in Provo, which is right by BYU. So it's very, very Christian. It's very Mormon. I literally just saw 2 Mormon missionaries walking down my street and I waved to them. And then you go south of that and you've got like this Spanish Fork in Salem, and it's like country. It's rednecks essentially. It's wild. Like, and that's only like 10 minutes from here. So it's a weird place. It's all over the board.
Yeah. That's what where I grew up in New Jersey was sort of not that rural, but I think when people think of New Jersey, they think of it being very industrial and kind of like, it gets that moniker, the armpit of America, like it's just the backwash of New York City and smells like shit. And there are parts of New Jersey that are like that, but I grew up very much in a very rural area of the state, where it's kind of flies in the face of what people expect New Jersey to be, which I was happy to live there because I'm a New Jersey defender. I think Jersey's a great state.
I like Jersey too. I was there last year.
Oh, really? For what?
Yeah, no, it was actually it was January. It was January this year. I was there for a Broncos Jets game actually.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I know one of the guys on the Broncos, so we flew out and saw him for the weekend.
Yeah, I've been to a lot of Jets games at the Meadowlands.
Yeah,
for sure.
Sad. The Jets are sad, but it was fun. I've never actually been to an NFL game. I know all these guys, and I'd like just don't pull up to the game. So it was fun to go to MetLife because I'm a Giants fan. So.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I thought you worked didn't you do a podcast for like a hockey team though?
Yeah, well, so I do a podcast with one of my buddies that I work with, and we do a bit of everything. So we know a couple guys from the Utah Mammoth now, that's formerly Utah Hockey Club. So we work with Liam O'Brien, Spicy Tuna. We work with the coach of the hockey team. We work with some of the Utah Jazz players, Colin Sexton and Walker Kessler. And then we work with a couple of, not a couple, but a lot of more college athletes, BYU, Utah, UVU. So we work with like literally everybody and anybody.
Mm-hmm. That must be a really interesting job.
It's wild, dude.
Yeah. That sounds really cool.
It's tiring. I mean, not in a good way. I mean, I can't complain when my plate's full and I wanted to eat, but it is a lot. It's managing relationships with athletes is an interesting world.
Were you always like a big sports guy? Was that what kind of like drew you to this, or?
Yeah, a little bit. So I played basketball as a kid, but turns out I'm 5'6", so that was going nowhere. and then I played football, and then turns out I was 130 pounds, so that was going nowhere. And then so I just kind of pivoted into doing video and photography for sports. And then in high school, I did broadcasting, radio, sports broadcasting. So I was actually play-by-play commentator for my high school basketball team. So I did a lot of that. So I've always been in the sports world for sure.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the video, Rendan, of the guy going where he's like he shoots, he scores, and boom goes the dynamite.
Boom goes the dynamite.
Yes, boom goes the dynamite. Yeah.
That's what I think of whenever I hear about sports commentators.
Yeah.
So wait, this is an interesting question. Since you did that for a while, who is your favorite like color commentator in all of sports?
That is a really interesting question. I tend to lean in more to like the basketball realm. Mm-hmm. So I think my favorite play-by-play guy is Mike Breen. He does a lot of the MSG New York Knicks broadcasting. He's fantastic. He's the guy that does the double bang, if anybody knows that. As far as color goes, that's a lot harder, honestly. I kind of like the Charlotte Hornets guy. I can't think of his name. And the Utah Jazz have a pretty good one, Thurl Bailey. He's really good.
Yeah, because I mean, everyone makes fun of John Madden's voice, like the Frank Caliendo impressions and stuff. I respect those guys. That's a fucking difficult job. It's especially, I mean, with basketball, it must be way more difficult than football, even because football is like, it's a fast-paced game, but it stops every 6 seconds. Basketball, you just got to be on constantly. So
yeah, you do, you really do, and the basketball is crazy too because it's like. I was play-by-play. One of my best friends, he was doing color, and for him, it's easy. He can chime in like, "Oh, this guy is this percentage. He shoots this well." For me, it was like, and this guy passes to this guy, and he takes a shot, and they're running the opposite way. So it's. I thought it was a lot of fun, but you do have to kind of be dialed in.
Yeah. Me, Nick, and Ethan have never talked about sports once.
Are we sports boys?
I have nothing to say.
I feel like we're like. We're like the sports ball guys,
Yeah. This is the sports podcast now.
I have enough information on American football from watching a lot of like Oklahoma Sooners games that my dad always put on for like college games. I know enough information to understand how the game functions. Like that is the only reason. And then as soon as I moved out of my house, I have not turned on a sport ever again. I've watched some boxing and MMA, but like not commonly.
I watch golf sometimes, and I watch UFC sometimes. That's it.
Why would you watch golf like as an actual choice of free will?
I even know some.
I play golf. I love golf.
I even know some PGA players, and I'm like, I don't want to watch golf.
Yeah, I work at a golf course right now, actually.
Oh, okay, well, there you go. Free golf, baby.
Before we move on to the next topic, I do want to make a couple corrections. I said some wild things. Five Nights at Freddy's did not make $1 billion. It made $290 million on an on a $20 million budget.
May as well have.
And then we asked about Thunderbolts and Captain America's budget or domestic. So Captain America worldwide, it's sitting at $415 million on like a $250 million budget. So it like broke even. And then Thunderbolts made $355 million worldwide as of right now.
On what budget?
I think the budget was a little less.
Yeah, they're gonna have to find a way to just deflate these budgets.
They gotta
out of
drop
control.
them down. That's what happens when you sign on actors for like 10, 15-year contracts. And they just like, okay, I get a raise for every movie.
Yeah, at least the Thunderbolts felt like it kind of took use of the budget. Like Captain America, where did the budget go for the horrible effects?
It turned into red Harrison Ford.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Had to have just been fucking Harrison Ford budget, but yeah, I mean, and Thunderbolts was also riding on the back of Captain America 2, which probably didn't help it too much.
Yeah, that's true.
I guess. Do you want to do a quick talk about Last of Us?
Let's
finish off.
Let's talk about The Last of Us. The Last of Us season 2 has officially wrapped up for the next probably 3 years until we get a new season. So, Rendan, you've seen bits of the show and you played the game. Right?
Yes. I've played both the games. I've seen like the first 4 episodes of season 1. I wasn't in love with it. I thought it was all right. I did see the one episode that they kind of in season 1 where they made their own with the like that relationship.
Bill and Frank.
Yes. I think that was the one where I stopped. I don't know why, because it was a great episode and it's a well-made show. I can't be bothered with TV. I don't know. It takes too much of my time. The only TV show I've watched in the last 2 years is Shogun.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially if you already know the story, I guess it's like
I'm so glad everybody's coming around to my perspective on this thing, because I felt like a crazy person hating on it as much as I did.
I feel like I've been hearing a lot of hate the entire season. I don't know what you're talking about.
People have hated on this season, really?
Yeah,
people really.
I mean, it's mostly just bullying Bella Ramsey for nothing.
Well, I think what Nick is saying that like now it's not just the angry people who are mad, like even there are normies that are like, this kind of sucks.
I agree with
it's
that.
not just people making fun of Bella Ramsey now. It's like everybody's like, this maybe just isn't that good.
Yeah.
I think this finale was weird. It was strange. I gotta get this off my chest because as soon as I watched the scene, so it's Ellie is on her way to the aquarium from the second game, where she's on her way to go find Abby. Spoilers, everybody. She's going to find Abby, and on the way she runs into Owen and Mel. So on that way, she's on the way to the aquarium. A big tidal wave knocks over her boat. She gets washed ashore on the Seraphite Island. Seraphites find her. A kid is like, she's a wolf, and then they are about to gut her. And then there's like a big sound alarm, and they're all like, oh, the village, leave her. And then they leave her, and then she runs back to her boat, gets in, and then just continues going to the aquarium. It's like a 10-minute scene, 7 minutes, whatever. And you could entirely cut it, and it adds nothing to the story. And I was like, why did we do this? Like, anyway, I don't know if you guys felt that way, but
No, yeah, that scene was ridiculous.
That scene sucks. The whole intro scene with Ellie and what's his name, like at the beginning, was
Ellie
pretty underwhelming.
Jesse. Yeah,
it's not much good I can say about this episode.
I think, yeah, it really felt like, do you guys remember early Walking Dead seasons where you would have a character in the background and be like, that's Angela's sister, and she has 0 lines. And then one episode, she gets all these lines, and she starts going like, do you remember when Dad and we used to go fishing? Anyway, and then a zombie bites her in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, oh, that's why we learned about her, so she could die. That was Jesse this entire episode. It was like, oh, I'm going to be a dad. Oh, I'm really conflicted. And I'm about community. And I'm in the future of Jackson. So anyway, and then I get shot in the face.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you guys last night. It felt like his characterization was like cramming for a final exam. Just like cramming it all into the 10 minutes before he dies.
Like, he's in the other episodes, like the early episodes of the season, but he's only in like maybe a scene or two in 3 episodes, every 3 episodes. Like he's like, Ellie, stop being so brash. Dina, stop being so Dina. Yeah. Anyway, I'm out of here, guys. That's kind of his whole character.
Yeah. The entire finale was a mess. It was definitely, I feel like the entire season being 7 episodes hurt it, but also at the same time, I don't know how much better it would have been if there was 10 episodes. At this point, I'm just not really invested in the story, so much so that I watched the entire I stayed up so late last night. I watched the entire cutscene of
that's
compilation.
Like 30 hours.
No, it was 8 hours. The one that maybe it was truncated. Terrible. I don't know, but it was 8 hours.
No, that should be right. Yeah.
Speaking of the game, since Rendan's here, what did you think about the second game?
I didn't hate it as much as everybody else did.
I liked it. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I think it took a creative risk that I didn't expect it to, in killing off one of the most popular characters in gaming history. I thought that was an interesting idea, and then they used it to drive home a point. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed how violent it was to kind of continue to drive home that point. I've always had an issue with both of the games. I don't love them because both of them do feel like they are more or less just a TV show already. Like, they're so like visuals and cinematic oriented that to the point where I'm like, oh, I'm moving a ladder for 5 minutes to get past a boulder. Like, I'm so bored. I'm a big like Doom player. I love like Doom Eternal, the Dark Ages Doom, those super fast paced, crazy games. So Last of Us never really appealed to me. But as far as storytelling goes, I think both of them do a solid job. And the second one at least took an interesting risk.
So as somebody who hasn't seen the second season of the show, what would your worries be about adapting that second game?
That's an interesting question. I think my worry would be that it paints too broadly with its message. My worry would be that you don't spend enough time with the characters to actually like them, because I think you have to, like, Ellie is a big part of, is the main character obviously in the game, and the, what's her name, Abby, is it Abby?
Mm-hmm.
Abby has that whole section where you play as her to try and force the player to see her perspective. So that would be my worry with trying to adapt that, is that both of those characters need a lot of time to actually make the audience care about them.
Yeah, Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, this season sort of ended on a cliffhanger. Now it's pretty clear we're going to spend the next season mostly with Abby, from Abby's point of view. I don't know. I don't know when's the last time you played it, but it ends like right at the moment when their two paths converge.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gunshot that goes off. You don't know exactly, or at least the show watcher wouldn't know what happens to Ellie. Abby shoots her, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, so now we're just totally switching gears from Ellie, who is a character that many show watchers were not really, grasping onto and connecting to that much this season, to basically a brand new character in Abby that we barely even know. So it's like, I don't know. It's just not creating a lot of investment, I think, for audiences to stick around. And considering how expensive and how much of a flagship show this is becoming for HBO, that's kind of a gigantic issue.
It is. So. Yeah. I think that is also an issue with adapting video games in general. I mean, I've got my trusty Assassin's Creed Steelbook here as an indication of that. I remember really liking this movie, and I just rewatched it and I hated it. But I think that's the problem too, is that adapting source material like that is really hard, especially with The Last of Us, which is so beloved. I mean, I can't believe that they're remaking the Harry Potter movies, because there's zero chance that people will actually give them a fair shot. And I don't know if that's the case with...
I disagree.
Really? Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a minute, I guess. But
yeah,
I felt like that would be the scary thing to me, is adapting Last of Us 2 into a show, because people don't like Last of Us already, The Last of Us 2 at least, and then adapting it into this show where everybody knows the source material already, and they already have these preconceived notions of what they expect and what they like. I don't know. It's tricky.
I kind of have the opposite opinion of you on this. I think that adapting this game was a slam dunk.
Really?
I think because it was so cinematic and because it was basically already a TV show, all they had to do was follow it. I think they would have had a much more success. You've seen it. The production quality is great.
Mm-hmm.
It looks good. The cinematography is decent. I think they just needed to adapt the games. I think that's all they needed to do, and it would have been great.
Even for 2, though? But I mean, that's what Rendan was saying, is that like 2 is so controversial that an adaptation of it is almost bound to fail, because everyone who loved the first part kind of hated the second part. There's very few people that kind of stand behind it, you know?
Yeah.
I think that they could have made it work. I think a lot of the reasons that it, even without a lot of the changes like I've talked about previously, I think they could have made it stick more, or made the landing stick more, if they had done a lot of the things that we were talking about earlier, or in previous episodes, where just the performances were better. Where like Addie. Why can't I think of her name? Ellie's character.
Ellie.
Where fucking Ellie is actually like a relatable character, and her like the things she's trying to do actually makes sense. I think there's just so much disjointed in this season that, from it, like basically trying to do its own thing off of the game.
Now, after being totally fresh with the second part, the video game and everything, I feel like in the game, Ellie is like a revenge monster, basically. There are a few moments of levity where she's not that, where she's, more what she was in the first part, which is just like a normal kid kind of. But for the most part, that's her focal point the entire time. That's the entirety of her motivation, is I'm going to fucking kill these people who did this to Joel. Whereas like that's in the adaptation, but it's not at all. It's not focused on nearly enough.
It's like 25% of Ellie's character is the revenge, whereas in the game it's like 90%.
How interesting.
And that's something the audience can connect with. They just lost a character that they love too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right? Exactly.
That like Ellie is our connection to the story. And right now we're just like, what the fuck are you doing?
So what do they do? Like, that's the whole point of the game, is that she's a monster.
They still
she becomes a monster.
Yeah, they still follow the plot, and she has those moments, but there's a lot more like lightheartedness.
I'm gonna be a dad.
There's like jokes and stuff. Like it's fine,
it's not
and
the
it
time
worked
to do
fine
that.
for me, but it did I feel like it was kind of lacking that serious tone for a lot of those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, to drive a point as dramatic as it is in the game home, you kind of have to take it very seriously. Because Ellie's a character people love, and then they turn her into a monster. You got to take that very, very seriously, I would think.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there is something to be said about. I think ultimately Bella Ramsey probably was miscast in this role. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say whether it's necessarily Bella Ramsey making the wrong acting decisions or the showrunner making the wrong writing decisions or directing decisions or whatever. But
combination of both.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably both. But like, watching the cutscenes and everything, it's just so clear that there's a gigantic disconnect between the game Ellie and the show Ellie, and it's very clear which one's better for this kind of story.
I think Bella Ramsey was pretty well cast in season 1 of The Last of Us, but that character has such a dynamic shift into the second game that I don't know if there was there definitely wasn't enough of a change in that character, because it still felt like I was watching Ellie from, the first season, but now they were like, Ellie was now mad.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first game, Ellie is more or less just like a MacGuffin. Get her to a place. Yeah. Like, she has a little characterization.
And you care about her.
Yeah, you care about her because of their relationship. But then in the second one, it's like, okay, now you're going to actually put something on top of this MacGuffin and make it into an actual character.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so I'm not familiar with the first game's cutscenes at all. I only watched the second one. So
it's pretty close to the first season.
That's really how it is? Like, Ellie is kind of barely a character in the first one?
You play as her with the one time when Joel's impaled in like the snowy section with the cannibals. That's like the only time you play as her. And it's like it's a really cool part of the game. But yeah, no, Ellie is very much like your supporting character. Like, she is the way how Dina is to Ellie in the second game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dina's hanging around for a big portion. She has
some character because she's kind of that teenage angst type of thing going on, but it is more or less a MacGuffin. Get her to a place.
And they do really
a lot of her character growth is like through Joel basically seeing his daughter through her.
Right.
And there's so much of it is like done through gameplay, which is why it's hard to translate. But like, there's sections in the first game where you do the like, Ellie, I'm gonna throw you up there and you toss down that ladder. And then there's parts later in the game where thank you. There's parts later in the game where like, you'll throw Ellie up. This is like after the whole cannibal section. You throw Ellie up, and then just like, or I think you're like waiting for her to like get in your arms so you can throw her up, and you're just standing there for like 10 seconds. You're like, Ellie? Like, it breaks the gameplay because Ellie's like going through something. You're like, oh man, I'm worried because the game isn't even functioning correctly because Ellie's so upset. Like, there's stuff like that where I don't know. I just love the way they did. I don't even know where I was going at that point. I just wanted to talk about that moment. But yeah, it was great.
All I'll say is I beg, unless the excitement for season 3 is through the roof on this show, can we just not talk about it?
No, I'm watching it, so we're watching it.
Well, we don't have to think about it for like 2 or 3 years. So.
Do you think it's this? Do you think that this is a situation of like, it was damned if you do, damned if you don't? Because like the game, like you said, there's those organic moments where you do something or you see something and Ellie comments on it, and that's kind of how you get to know her. Do you translate that exactly to a TV show, or do you go your own route? Because I mean, it's that situation of which one do you do?
I think they towed the line fairly well in the first game, or the first show. Like, I think they did kind of find a way to give them both perspective without swaying too far. I think, honestly, my biggest issue with the first season was they didn't spend enough time developing those characters. They rushed the ending really hard, and that was kind of what made it fall flat for me.
Yeah. I think ultimately the biggest issue is that, like, it's Pedro Pascal being gone. Really, that's, you can't cast an actor that big and then just remove him from the equation, and then it's just all good. Like, he just became way too famous in between the first season and the second season.
I don't think that's it. I think if anything, that was something the show had going for it, because losing him as a character gives us like more of that, like, oh fuck, and they just had to ride that. And I don't think they're doing enough through Ellie to make us feel that,
Yeah, maybe it's like in that moment when Joel, or to the audience's Pedro Pascal, was executed on set, it's like they've lit a fire under us and we're like, yes, revenge, but we're also like, grieving. And that, I think the momentum does wane from moment to moment where you're just like, oh my god, okay, Okay, all right. Now we're laughing and joking. All right, can we go cave someone's skull in, please, and feel morally upset about it later? Come on. Like, that's very much the energy of the second game.
But dude, you don't think you can just remove the entire like star power and fucking gravity of charisma from
if the secondary characters were stronger?
Yeah, but they're not though. That's the issue.
I think if they were, then it would have worked better.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in the game, I think it works better because I think the character like writing and performances are just more what was necessary for the story.
But don't you see how that, like, in a perfect world where Ellie was perfectly cast and the writers completely understood her character, that it being Pedro Pascal would have only helped more?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's just tough. It's tough to do this. Like I've said it a couple of times, but I just don't. The only other instance I can think of this even working is Game of Thrones, and that in that case it had a ton of other secondary characters to pick up the slack, and this show just doesn't have that. It has Ellie, and there's like other like Jesse. Jesse's not a fucking character, you know? Like,
no, but that's part of what we're saying. I'm just saying I don't think that in a vacuum is the only problem. I think there's other problems that made that the main.
Oh, no, I of course agree with that. I'm just saying.
Do you guys think, because before the season came out, I was really theorizing that they were going to do a massive restructuring of the story to make it a little more palatable. Do you think this season would have functioned better if they did not tell it as Ellie's day 1 through 3 reset, Abby's day 1 through 3 reset, and they just told it chronologically, you know, Ellie, Abby, Ellie, Abby, Ellie, Abby? Mm-hmm. Or do you think that would have been harder to digest?
I don't think it would have fixed the problem, but I think it would have made it a more enjoyable watch.
Yeah, no, I think it would have fixed a lot of issues, because now if you think about it, this finale ended on a cliffhanger where it's like, all right, they're setting up Abby to be the point of view character for the majority of the next season. We don't know her. How are people going to be super psyched to be like, oh, Last of Us is coming back in 2027 when you know you're going to be following this girl that you barely know who just killed your favorite character? It's like, if you would have given us more to do with her and like more plot and story and connection to her to understand her perspective, I think they would have people more excited to see the next season. Whereas now I don't know if that's happening, you know.
Do you guys think, I mean, I don't know, but especially with the second game where the gameplay is so critical to like the violence of it, is that something that's lost in translation too with the show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Because it's like
100%.
Because it's like, I mean, that's one of the cruxes of like the biggest parts of the game is that you're murdering these people and it's horrifically violent and it's you doing it and it's putting you in her shoes. So that immersion I feel like is gone.
Yeah,
I don't even think you need the immersion. I think they sway away from the violence altogether in the show. Like, I think there's like a couple moments, but this show really has hardly any actual like excessive violence in it.
Yeah, I think honestly, one benefit the show might end up getting by the end is we've all played the second game, right? Okay. The ending decision of Ellie, spoilers for everybody, of Ellie letting Abby go, was frustrating for game players because they were like, are you fucking kidding me? I've killed like 500 people all throughout this game. And then I go, no, I'm not feeling it. Which I still like, by the way. But a lot of people hated that. Whereas I'm like, in the show, she's killed at this point, like what, 4 or 5 people? So at least it's not like drastically hypocritical, you know?
One of the biggest microcosm of what you're talking about, Nick, is how they've kind of sanitized a lot of the violence. Is I was really surprised to watch last night when I was watching the cutscenes, like the moment where Mel dies is so much better in the game, where Ellie actually does kill her and she's pregnant.
She shanks her in the throat.
Yeah, but like in the show, it's like, oh, she was an accident. The bullet went through and through and it killed her. And, you know, that was like, why?
That defeats the purpose.
Yeah, that was so much more. There's so much weakened.
Yeah, I think the show. I don't think there's any recovering of this show. I think
season 3 is going to be better because I think Abby's story is more interesting.
But better than like, than this. It can't be much worse.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned Game of Thrones, but I think one of the reasons Game of Thrones really, really worked with those moments is because they were very, very violent. I mean, cutting off a guy's head that
the
you
red
love.
wedding
The red wedding's crazy, and so it's genuinely shocking for one, and then they're very, very violent and visceral. And if you don't have that, the effect's lost.
Yeah.
You should watch a scene by scene of the Joel death in the game versus the show. Like even that was like massively toned down.
When
really?
He gets shot, when he gets shot in the knee in the game, it is literally hanging on by tendons. Like you see his leg is like gaps missing through it.
Gross.
Like in the show, you're like, ooh, that's gonna hurt. Maybe he broke his leg. But in the game, you're like, no, it's fucking gone. It's fucking gone.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, we're coming up. We're coming up on 2 hours. Maybe let's do an ultimate. Let's do a rating for Last of Us.
Sorry,
now that
Rendan's
it's
just so
all
easy
over.
to talk to.
Yeah,
my bad.
Yeah,
it's all right. It's your fault.
I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'm sorry.
Rating for the whole season.
I got all night.
Yeah.
I'll give it like, I don't know. It's maybe like a 6. Yeah.
5.
Oh, wow. All right.
3, 2, 1.
Well, I will say before we do our little Stuckmanization here,
I was waiting for it.
What do you? Why aren't you excited for Harry Potter?
Oh yeah.
I forgot
I would like
to
to get
mention
into that a little bit.
Oh yeah, Rendan's on my side.
So
Yay.
yes, wait,
that's not what Rendan said. You said I want to just frame it properly because you were saying that you think, much like The Last of Us, you think that the fans of Harry Potter are never going to accept another adaptation than the one that we already got in the 2000s.
I think so. Yes, I think it's a bad idea from jump, and I have the same thought with the Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings, they're like redoing the movies, and I think it's a horrible idea. I think on paper they're going to make money. Like on paper, the producers will be happy, and I like the idea that Harry Potter is going seasons. I think that works better for its books. I think the issue is, people love those Harry Potter movies. I mean, I like them. I think they're okay. But even I went to a 22-hour marathon where I watched all 8 of them in a row. And there was literally 4 theaters sold out to watch every single movie back to front. 4 theaters. Thousands of people showed up to this one theater. And I think that's the issue, is that you got these attachments to these characters, but not just the characters, to the actors specifically. And I think that's going to be a huge detriment to whatever they do. Like anybody that plays Snape is screwed.
Yeah.
I have a counter. I think the key difference between something like The Lord of the Rings versus something like Harry Potter is, us as kids, as Harry Potter fans, I think a lot of us, like a huge amount of us, grew up and actually read those books. Like a ton of people actually read the books.
Yeah,
and I don't think the same can be said about Lord of the Rings. I think most of us who were into Lord of the Rings watched the movies, and then maybe we went back and read the books at some point later. So I think the attachment is to the Harry Potter story itself. And I think more people than you'd probably expect are open to another adaptation that's maybe even closer to the books.
Yeah, that's very possible. I mean, especially like the bigger ones, like the 4th one or the 5th one that are like 800 pages. That's why I like the idea of going to seasons, because you can get more of the book. I think that one of the issues is that those books suck. Like I just reread them and they're awful. Like the 4th one is genuinely hard to get through. Yeah.
Yeah, 4th one's pretty rough.
And the 5th one too. The 5th one's like 900 pages, and it's just Harry being sad about Dumbledore. I'm like, dog, cut some of this. Like that was like her blank checkbook, and I could not believe it. Like we're gonna get spew in the TV show. This like save the goblins thing. Please don't do that, because it goes nowhere.
Well, and it's also the meta commentary is very sus, because we're gonna presumably get a black Hermione in this, because as JK said, she was always black, even though she described her as white.
Yes.
But that's fine. We're gonna get a young black actress to play Hermione, and then she's going to fight for the freedom and rights of house elves who genetically love being slaves. And
please
everyone's going to be like,
that.
Hermione,
please
stop
don't
fighting
do that
for slavery, you black girl.
Yes.
So
Stop
I really
being so
hope
uppity.
I really hope they commit to the book accuracy there, because I want to see the outcome and how bad that goes.
Ooh, it's not a good idea.
I don't disagree that the books are rough around the edges, but I do think a lot of people look back on them fondly, and I think
absolutely
that I think the tie to Harry Potter is just a little bit different than something like Lord of the Rings, because I personally think redoing the Lord of the Rings movies is also a bad idea. I think it's dumb as fuck.
Yeah, but I think, Nick, like, you're right that we all did read those books when we were kids, but most people haven't read them since they were kids. You know, there's mega fans who read them religiously. I read them. I listened to all the audiobooks at work like 5 or 6 years ago. So I remember those stories. But I'm going to be honest, like, in my head, Harry Potter kind of lives in a visual medium because I've seen the movies so much more. And
you hear the
great
point.
Yeah, exactly. And
John Williams.
The discrepancy is like, oh, they kind of like they did that scene a little bit differently, or omitted the spew thing, or like there's certain things that I remember not being in the adaptation. But so much of that is just like minor little scene differences and things like that. It's not like, you know what I mean?
I kind of agree, but I also like, I feel like I have an attachment to like the universe of Harry Potter more than I do any of the actors who played Harry Potter, or any of like, I don't have an attachment to those actors personally. I never felt that way. I just loved that world that they created. And like, if I can be there for longer periods of time, like that sounds cool.
Yeah, I do really like the world of Harry Potter. I think that's the best part. I think that's a great point though, Nick, because like, I think what people think of when they think of Harry Potter is what they see in the Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone. Because like the world was created by more or less by Christopher Columbus. Like when I think of Hogwarts, I think of his version of Hogwarts. When I hear the theme, I think of his version of the theme. And I mean, like you go to the fourth one when a lot of that magic is completely gone. I mean, so yeah. It's interesting to think about in that way, because it kind of did transform into a visual thing. Because I go back, like I said, I've read the books recently. I listened to the audiobooks recently. And when I picture the stuff in the book, now it's those characters, those actors, and that world and the way it's presented, especially in the first one, where it has that kind of magical quality that I really love.
Yeah. My whole I've been on a whole tip lately about how if Harry Potter wants to survive into the next decade, it needs to have its own Andor. It needs, because there's so much similar about the Star Wars fans and the Harry Potter fans. Like there's a controversial creator at both of them, George Lucas and J.K. Rowling, for way different reasons. But
very different reasons.
They have aging fan bases who are they're getting tired of all the nostalgia baiting and this was what it was in the past. And we're all adults now. As all of us have said, the universe is cool as hell. Give us an adult story with mature themes. Because I mean, the Death Eaters, that they're very similar to the Empire. But yeah, it's like,
I agree. But don't you think this show kind of gives you a lot of avenues for them to kind of create more within this world?
Definitely.
But I thought this was the one where they're going more book accurate. That's what they advertised it as.
No, but they're creating a modern version of the Harry Potter universe that they can do other things in.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I want to see Harry as an adult, or an adult protagonist is my thing.
The one scary thing about that, they kind of tried that with the Cursed Child, and it was awful.
Pretty rough.
Oh my god, it was so bad. And I think that's one scary thing for me too with this, especially this universe, because like those Fantastic Beasts movies were written by J.K. Rowling. The screenplays were hers, and they are embarrassing. Like the world isn't even fun in those, which is crazy.
I don't think she's a great writer. I think she got lucky with a good concept. Like
I think she's a decent writer. I think she's a decent writer. I think that she's not a good screenwriter.
Bad screenwriter.
I mean, I
think
don't know.
The first one is okay. The first Fantastic Beasts.
The first one's fine. It's perfectly serviceable. And then they just completely go out the fucking deep end. Because the scene she has in all of her books where we get to the end and it's like, there's been this whole growing mystery. And then we get to a scene where it's all the characters in a room and they going, but I was there and they were there. And actually this whole thing, like Prisoner of Azkaban, that's in every single one of the movies. Like literally all of them. But it is pretty, like they trim them down in the movies. They're fucking horrendous in the book. They go on for like a full 2 chapters.
Thank you.
And the worst of them is in her Fantastic Beasts movies. Like in Crimes of Grindelwald, I did not watch the third one.
So
Crimes
bad.
of Grindelwald, it's like
the graveyard scene you're talking about.
I stole a baby and threw it in the ocean, and then someone walks off screen. They're like, "Actually, I was the baby, and I threw the other baby off the thing." And then they're like, "Actually, I was the one in the water, and I caught the baby." Like and it goes on for 15 minutes. I'm like, I know what you're doing. You like this is all you do. And it's bad.
You could tell it's someone
Yeah.
that's been writing for the page for way too long, and they don't know how to translate it to the screen.
Because she tried to do a Stephen King and like write under a pseudonym, and those books did not do well. So she just kind of said, "Hey, that was me," and then they started doing well.
Really?
Stephen King did that because Stephen King was like, "Is it just my name that they're buying?" So he made a pseudonym and got really popular off that pseudonym that nobody knew was him. So she wanted to recreate that, and it didn't work because I don't think she's a very good writer.
I don't think she's an amazing writer, but I do think she is serviceable and made a cool story.
She hasn't made. Yeah, she's tried to write a few things that have just been pretty poorly received since Harry Potter.
And writing young adult stories is also like a lot different than writing like an actual adult novel.
For sure. Yeah. I think the comparison of George Lucas is great too for J.K. Rowling, because both of them, I wouldn't say they got lucky, but they both are very, very good at ideas. I think both of them have great ideas. The problem is when both of them got their blank checks and carte blanche, it's embarrassing.
They're surrounded by yes men.
Yes, they need desperately to have an editor. And that's why the first 3 Harry Potter books are a tight 350 pages. And then they immediately balloon to 800 pages.
800, yeah.
Like, what are we doing? And then same with the Phantom Menace and the Attack of the Clones. Like, all 3 of those movies could have been one movie, but they're 3 and they're all bad because they're just stretching this material. They have some good ideas, but it's just not edited well.
Yeah. I've rewatched all of those this past week too.
Nice. Really?
Yeah.
They're hard to get through, man.
The Phantom Menace is so bad. The Revenge of the Sith is
the only
watchable,
one,
but god damn.
That's the only one I actually enjoy when you're watching is Phantom Menace.
Why?
The other 2,
really?
That's
I
crazy.
don't know why. I have no idea.
I only liked Phantom Menace as a
like
kid because I had the Lego Phantom Menace game, and I always played that.
Man, I used to love the Attack of the Clones as a kid. I remember seeing it in theaters, and when the clone ships came down, I was like, and now I watch it, and I'm like, oh, I can barely even get to that scene because I had to get through Anakin and Padme. Ugh.
Want to buy some death sticks?
That's actually a fun scene. I actually do like that scene, I'll admit.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to buy any death sticks.
I speaking about Harry Potter, I kind of have this like idea for a video. I haven't scripted anything out, but I think it's interesting how like a franchise or kind of any IP gets so famous with specifically like identity of through music. Like Harry Potter, I don't know if they've had anything come out yet, but I can guarantee you they're not going to change up. They're going to use the John Williams score. They might tweak it, but they're using the score. Jinx. Same thing goes for the new Superman with James Gunn. The theme is just still the John Williams. It's just a redo, kind of a remix of the John Williams theme.
It's so iconic.
Really interesting.
No, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's like, guys, it's the Superman song, so everyone knows that. Same with Harry Potter. That's the Harry Potter music.
Same's gonna be said with Lord of the Rings too.
Yeah, Howard Shore.
Absolutely.
Game of Thrones did the same thing with House of the Dragon.
Yeah, that kind of annoyed me. I was like, you fucking hacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's John Williams, that's for sure. If you got John Williams music, you have to use it for the end to the end of time.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. Let's wrap it up here.
I am tired.
This was a great episode.
All right, Nicholas, it is your recommendation.
So I'm going to be recommending Michael Clayton for the pod.
Oh hell yeah!
The next episode.
Let's go.
All right.
I know Ethan hasn't seen it. Have you seen it, Nick?
I watched the video.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh, okay, cool.
I'll watch it. I haven't seen it.
I'm gonna try to watch Andor, finish Andor before we.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can try to catch up on Andor.
We should do an Andor Michael Clayton.
Hopefully it'll do better than my video. But
all right. If all of our YouTube listeners enjoyed this, please leave a like and a comment. And if you're listening to us on our audio only platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Actually, Spotify is not audio only anymore. It's now got video. So never mind. Ignore that. But leave us a review, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us out. And if you don't want to be spoiled for Michael Clayton from 2007, directed by Tony Gilroy, make sure to watch it before next episode. Rendan, thank you again so much for being here once again. You're always a lovely, lovely guest to have on the pod. Do you want to plug anything for the interrupters?
No, not really. It was a blast. I mean, you can find me on YouTube, Rendan Lovell. I'm not doing a whole lot right now, but if you want to check it out, go for it.
All right. Well, I was going to ask you, what do you think about getting stuck when eyes, but I already know the answer. We all love it.
I love it. Can't wait to get it again.
Get stuck when eyes, everybody.
Get stuck when eyes, everybody. Have a good night.
Get stuck when eyes.